Welcome to the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners Meeting, September 13, 2011. Before we start our normal procedure, I am requesting all cell phones and electronic devices be turned off in a mute position as to not disturb the meeting. Any member of the public also has a right to make an audio or video recording of an open session of a public meeting. A member of the public who wishes to record a meeting must first notify the chair and must comply with reasonable requirements regarding audio and video equipment established by the chair, so as not to interfere with the meeting. The chair is required to inform other attendees of such recording at the beginning of the meeting. We will have one person recording. Roll call.
Mr. Chairman, all 5 selectmen are present. Mr. Andrews, the town administrator, is ill.
Are there any announcements?
Yes. On Saturday, September the 24th, on Glen Charlie Road, there will be the Wareham Land Trust Recycles for Conservation yard sale. The Land Trust is hosting a recycle for conservation yard sale from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which will feature underused and slightly used household items, with all proceeds going to fund land protection and conservation projects. As we've passed Labor Day, most people think that summer is over. I just want to say that Wareham is alive and well, and there are many activities taking place. But one of the season-ending reminders is the Perry's Last Stand, our famous ice cream shop that attracts many visitors. The last day of the season will be the 18th of September. And on Monday, the 19th of September, starting at 3 p.m., the ice cream is free. And they only ask that flavors will be limited, and you are reminded to bring your own containers. And again, that's on Monday the 19th, starting at 3, and then we'll say goodbye to Perry's until next spring. On Saturday, September 17th, I believe that's Saturday. Saturday 17th. Can't see the wall. I believe it is Saturday, September 17th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will have the second annual Wareham Braveheart Awards, which will be held at Wareham Crossing. Again, that's Saturday, September 17th, from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. And this is a ceremony that awards heroes, both from the military and in our community. There's a lot of activities going on. You can look that up online on the Wareham Crossing site. We got, there was one more here. The Wareham Garden Club on September the 17th, so you might have to adjust your schedule just a little bit. From 9 a.m. to 12 noon, the Wareham Garden Club will hold its annual perennial bake sale. And there's a bunch of flowers in there that I probably can't pronounce, but proceeds from this event will help support the scholarship program offered to Wareham residents graduating from high school who plan to pursue higher education in the area of horticulture, agriculture, environmental, biological, and earth science or conservation. So that's Saturday, September 17th from 9 to 12, and that's going to be at the Old Methodist Meeting House on Main Street in Wareham. And I believe I had one more on Friday, September 16th, at the Eastern Bank, Main Street in Wareham. They will close the season with duo pianist Kirk Whipple and Marilyn Moraes. And that will end the season. That's from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And again, that's on Friday the 16th. Donations will be accepted, and children 5 to 17 are free. One more was on September the 15th, which I believe backs us up to Thursday, there is a lemonade fundraising event at the Old Red Farm Inn, which is out by Little Harbor Country Club, and the inn is to benefit Women Aid, and they'll be serving lemonade. So again, that's Thursday night, September 15th, at 6 p.m. at the Little Red House Inn. Does any other members have any announcements? Oh, right. On Thursday afternoon, 5:30 p.m. in the cafeteria. All boards, commissions, and anyone that's interested should come by. We're having our town council's group will be putting on an open meeting session where you'll have to sign a paper to say that you attended. And again, that's for all. Anyone can come, but it is designed for all boards, committee members, chair people, board of selectmen, etc. Kara? Mike? That's it, Mr. Chairman.
That's it. Citizens' participation. You have two. We'll start from this side.
Good evening. Son, is it on?
Is the green light on?
Yes.
Okay. It's
Good evening. My name is Tiny Lopes, and I'm a resident of Onset. And I, like many Americans on Sunday, either went to church services or watched TV throughout the day in the commemoration of the 10th anniversary of the 9/11 attack, the terrorist attack of our country. Sunday evening, I had also went down to Onset, where I knew we were having this outstanding program. And I just wanted to thank not only the board, but all those who participated in this wonderful event. It really reached home. It was a teachable moment. I saw a lot of youngsters and youth at this affair who were very solemn, listening attentively, and participating. From the parade throughout the entire evening, culminating at the bandshell, I was proud to be an American. And I want you to know, and I want to thank all of those who put this program on. I think, although we can't do it in as grandeur like we did it this past Sunday, we should observe 9/11 each and every year. We must never forget. And I want to thank those leaders and community participants. I did have an opportunity to talk to Winna Dean, Rudy Santos, and a few others of those who really put in countless hours putting this together, and they need to be acknowledged. And those of you out there who did not get to see this event should watch it on cable television if it's available, because it is one great moment in Wareham's history. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board? If not, that was one of the largest parades I've seen in a while in the town. Plus, not only the parade itself, but the participants that lined the streets. I mean, they were lining up on the street, and it made everybody proud, especially if you was a veteran, to see them come out and honor you. I think that was a touching thing. The next, I think we have one in the back, citizen participation.
Thank you. Good evening. Sandy Slavin. I was glad to hear that the Wareham Garden Club announcement made it into the packet. It's Saturday, 9 to 12 at 495 Main Street. We're doing bacon and we're planting, so please join us. But I'd like to have another announcement that didn't make the packet. I apologize, it wasn't sent in time. On Monday, September 19th at 7 o'clock at the Old Methodist Meeting House, the Wareham Historical Society with September McCarthy is going to give us a program on letters that were written by Sylvanus Bourne to his brother in 1832 to 1842, and it has some interesting information, intelligence, and wits about the town of Wareham. So if anybody has some time on Monday evening at 7 o'clock, join the Historical Society and listen to September talk about Sylvanus Bourne in Wareham in 1780s. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Slavin, just so you know, it didn't make it to the packet either.
I said
No, the first one didn't make it either.
Garden Club didn't make it to the packet?
No.
Oh, I
Just so you know, I found I've been trying to look around and find things about activities.
I apologize, I thought it had.
It didn't make it. So however you did it, it didn't make it.
Well,
I found it somewhere else.
you found it. I thank you for finding it. Ellen and I and the rest of the Garden Club appreciate it. Thank you.
There are no more citizen participation. Westfield, Mr. Clerk.
I don't have anything on Westfield tonight. Anybody?
No, I
We're in the process. We've moved the timelines out.
Right, and then we voted on it, so everything is
right,
set,
yeah.
right? Consent agenda, authorization to sign bills and document.
Yeah, I have one bill tonight, Mr. Chairman. It's through CDM, contract number 2. It's partial payment number 14 to Gielsa and Sons for work completed on the subject project from July 1st, 2011 to July 31st, 2011. At the amount is $105,501.49. So moved.
Moved in second. Any questions? No questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, we have a few minutes. See if I can take these in order. From March 1st, 2011. Mrs. Winslow's here. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting from March 1st.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Holmes, second by Kara. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 200.
302. Yeah, we have.
No.
Two.
I
Two.
abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, right. Okay.
203.
Do you abstain?
No, no.
302.
Yeah, you
Oh, yeah, I got
had
it
a
right.
vote, yeah.
I think I got it right.
3
How
approved, no,
Walter was absent that one, wasn't he?
was Walter absent?
Yes.
Yes, I was absent.
Okay, you're right.
So
He has it
two,
wrong.
Thank you.
203.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Make
I
sure
don't
we
have
get-
them in front of me.
We get
Oh.
that right.
I didn't look.
And I should have saw that because I see Mrs. Winslow was the clerk.
That's the only reason I know.
There you go.
On March, we have minutes to approve from March 15th, 2011. I make a motion
Second.
that we approve the minutes as transcribed on March 15th, 2011.
Second.
Motion made by Steve, seconded by Mrs. Winslow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 302.
Okay. Next, we have a request for use of town roads from the Wareham Veterans Council. For the 52nd Annual Veterans Day Parade. The parade will start at Bessie Park,
Thank you.
in Merchants Way, down Main Street, take a left up Chapel Hill to Marion Road, to Viking Drive, and end at the Town Hall on Friday, November 11th, 2011, at 10 a.m. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Mrs. Winslow. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chairman, if we could
500.
take a moment and let Mr. White address the
Sure will.
event, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bob White, and I represent the Wareham Veterans Council. They're the sponsoring organization for this. Several months ago, Sharon Boyer and I were asked by the council to assist them in their coordination, and that's what we have proceeded to do. We've added one additional member to our small coordination group, and that's Mr. John Wagner. I think the clerk has indicated the details of this, but the thing that's not mentioned here is that the parade will be followed by an appropriate ceremony at the monument between the multi-service center and the town hall. And that we hope that we can organize and promote a light potluck luncheon in the cafeteria in this building after the ceremony. But all of this is predicated on the fact that we've got to have volunteer help, and we hope to get that from community volunteers, veterans organizations, and community organizations. So that anybody who would like to help us participate by participating in this, either as in terms of the ceremony, the luncheon, or specifically the parade, feel free to contact us. My number is 508-274-4963. I won't give you the numbers of the other members at this point, but you can watch for public service announcements in the newspapers and periodic announcements here from your board. So if there are no questions, I will say thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
And to follow the last parade, you got a way to go to follow the last one. So you got a job ahead of you.
We know that.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. White, first of all, thank you very much for stepping up to the plate. I'm happy to volunteer for anything that you need. Last year, people were kind of disappointed because they didn't have enough volunteers, and you know, there was a good deal of people that came to the memorial here at Town Hall, and a lot of us brought our small children because it is important for these kids, you know, my daughter's generation, to understand the sacrifices that have been made by people so that she can enjoy the life that she enjoys. We all do. So you feel free to contact me and let me know whatever you need.
Your name is at the top of the list, Kara. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman, how we go about, maybe we could get this to Mr. Andrews or to Matt to get this up on our website, on the town website.
Sure can. We sure will.
Can we do that?
I'd
Yep.
imagine just sending an email off to the office would suffice,
So
right?
then Derek's sitting in our audience. He'll make a note of it. Thank you.
Okay, next we have an application for a one-day all-alcoholic beverages license to Tom Toby. Onset for a private party to be held at the Pavilion at the Baker Point Country Club, 10 Bay Point Drive, Onset, Mass, on September the 10th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. under the provisions of Chapter 138 Mass General Law. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, perhaps we could explain to the viewing public why the date has already...
Like-
The date.
Oh, right. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may. It appears that the agenda gets copied and they were cut and pasting or whatever they do, and Shirley left last week's date on there. So it was a typographical human error.
You read it.
This event is in the future, not in the past.
Right. We have to change the date that you read, the September 10th date.
Oh, I did? Oh,
Yes.
my God.
So I'm going to withdraw my second.
Oh, my God.
Yes. I was
So the
thinking
date is what's
Yeah,
on, it's on the
It's
application.
because I read off of the wrong sheet. My apologies. It's actually, let me do that again so it's appropriate. It's an application for a one-day all-alcoholic beverage license to Thomas Toby for a private party to be held at the Onset Bay, the Pavilion at Onset Bay Point Country Club, 10 Bay Point Drive, Onset, Mass. On September 16th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. under the provisions of Chapter 138 Mass General Law.
Second.
I wondered.
Any other questions?
I
If
did
not,
wonder about that.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 I did
All
send a
opposed?
note saying that the date
500.
All right, Mr. Chairman, now the next is the town administrator's report.
Okay, on the town's administrator's report, since Mr. Andrews isn't here, I need to call one of them up. It's on here and it's on our agenda. Well, let's just let it go. We'll let that come up on another business.
Okay. All right. So we move now to, make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, now we're on to town business. In the warrant articles, I would, Mr. Chairman, if I could request indulgence to you and the board members, if there are any participants in the audience that need to address us, could we take those first? I think we have a few tonight, the people that we've invited in. If we could do that now, instead of making them sit here and
Invited in for,
if that's okay with you.
Mr. Clerk, I'm at odds now. You said people we invited in
Yes.
pertaining to what? I'm
To
looking.
the warrant articles.
Okay, we're gonna go right down to warrant articles and
Okay.
they'll be here. As we go down.
All right. Well, we have to, well, I think that's backwards. I think we have a discussion of these articles, and then we should close the warrant,
Right,
right?
right.
So A actually goes down to the bottom. Okay, we have an acceptance of a $2,000 grant for the new food pantry, refrigerator, freezer, shelving, and equipment as a gift to the town.
I don't see any paperwork in front of us, but we can go ahead and take a vote on that. Mr. Gaines, do you have anything on that? On the acceptance of the grant from the...
Oh, yeah, I can do that if you want.
Come forward, please.
I don't know if I'm gonna do it right, but I'll
No,
do it.
thank you.
Because I've never done anything that involved a grant at the same time and a donation to the town, so. Larry Gaines, Friends of Wareham's Elderly. I've written up a little letter. I wasn't sure how many copies I was supposed to make, so I made one for Walter and one for Mark and one for Susan. Now, if you need more of that, I will be glad to duplicate these and supply them in another day. I'd like to read from this, if I may.
Thank you.
It's addressed to Mr. Walter Cruz and Chairman Stephen Holmes as the clerk, Kara Ann Winslow, Ellen Bagley, and Michael J. Snyder, and also to Mr. Mark Andrews and Susan Green, Temp COA Director. Our donation to the Council on Aging. As you are aware of, our trustee Dolores Cabral applied for a grant to United Way of Greater New Bedford Community Building Mini Grants Program, so we could improve the current pantry in-house at the multi-service center that lack nutritional availability needs of our seniors and ADA, American Disability Act, that are qualified. Dolores was on our behalf awarded a $2,000 grant for us to improve and get it ready for the COA to operate in a more beneficial manner. Below is a breakdown of our pantry contribution to the Council on Aging in real dollars. We at the Friends know that this will change the nutritional values of those who are 60s plus ADA qualified to be served with it. And I give the breakdown, and the total comes to $21,3753 in actual cost after we got discounts and all of that stuff. And the grant was for $2,000. We've absorbed the small difference with the council and with the Friends, and we used every penny. And it's presented from the Friends of Wareham's Elderly to the board and the Council on Aging, and all of the receipts and so forth are here in copy. And like I said, I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it sounds...
Outstanding.
Say that again.
good. It sounds like a
If
winner.
you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
No, if the board has any questions, so we're going to do is make a motion to accept this.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the $2,000 grant for the new food pantry, which consists of a refrigerator, freezer, shelving, and equipment.
No.
This grant was given to us by the United Way and the Friends
Kara?
of... Yes.
The grant was given to the Friends of Wareham's Elderly In turn, we are presenting the pantry, finished product, to the Council on Aging.
Right. That's
So
what
it
I
came to us, we spent the money, and you're getting the results.
Right. And I'm very grateful for that, Mr. Gaines. I thought that was such a good idea. But anyways, that's what I was just gonna say. I was trying to figure out how to. Okay, so let me start over. I make a motion to accept the $2,000 grant for the new food pantry, consisting of a refrigerator, freezer, shelving, and equipment as a gift from the Friends of the Wareham Elderly.
Motion made.
Good.
Motion made by Mrs. Winslow, seconded by Mr. Holmes. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? We have a question?
I do have a question. I guess my question is, does it have to say in the motion to the town of Wareham, or?
The only thing, as far as I know, all we're doing is accepting it as a gift.
Okay, I'm just
Right,
asking.
because
Just for clarification.
if not,
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
so I'm clear on this, I think what Mr. Gaines is saying is we're accepting the donation from the Friends of the Wareham Elderly of a refrigerator
Refrigerator
valued
free.
at
Well,
$2,100.
the whole interior of the pantry now, which includes all of the furniture and the fans and everything else. That's really what you're accepting. The grant has already been spent by us.
So is the value greater than $2,000?
Yeah, but we observed it. It came to $21,3753.
Okay.
And it's
So
the
when we-
value is a little bit higher than that because we got a 40% discount at Home Depot, and we got another 23% discount somewhere else. So it probably was worth about $2,900,
Wow.
whatever's down there in value.
Good shopper, Larry.
right, so in accepting this, we're
I'm an
accepting the
ex-buyer.
gift of the refrigerator, freezer, shelving, and equipment.
Yes.
That's it.
I-
You got it.
Any other questions?
That's all we can do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 500.
And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Gaines.
They can scan them in.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have the, next up, we have the Wareham Bike Path Committee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike Langford. David Smith. Lois Fountain. A few of us are still on vacation and running the countryside. Nice to be here tonight. Nice to see you all. We actually come tonight with a status quo, as it were, but also looking for some help from you folks, to be honest. We sent a letter regarding where we are with the pathway, and so we're sort of at a little bit of a crossroads because of one of our own discoveries was that originally the feasibility study said that the abandoned rail line was wholly owned by the state. Our discovery was that it wasn't. Part of it is owned by a company called Eagle Holt Incorporated, and so the pathway can't go down there without their permission, and so there needs to be some kind of discussion, open discussion with them to allow that to happen. We don't possess that power. We wouldn't think about going out and just contacting them and saying, what do you think, unless you folks say that. So that's part of our dilemma, as it were. This happens to be a prime time to really be thinking about some of these things with the potential of Walmart moving to the west side of town and the upgrade to Cranberry Highway. There's a lot of opportunity, as it were, to have some of the pathway considered in some of those projects, so it wouldn't come out of our nickel, as it were. So we would be interested in hearing some direction, number one. The other thing is that back in May, we had received a letter from the town administrator that he was going to be consulting with the municipal maintenance manager on some of our issues, and we have not had anything back from him on that. And so we're at that kind of stage. We're certainly willing to work along any which way, but I think we need, at this point, a little direction on that.
Any questions from the board? Mrs. Winslow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, Mr. Langford, is what does the Bike Path Committee believe is the best next step to take? Because I'm not an expert in bike paths.
Right.
And I'm not even sure I could ride a bike anymore.
Hang out with us, you'll get us right.
Thank
But
you.
it's a community pathway is not just for bikers, just to say that up front.
No, I
It's
am,
mostly for
yeah.
walkers and joggers and people who want to do their strolls with their kids. But I think we really believe that open dialogue with Eagle Holt would serve the process well. And by that I mean just to run it up the flagpole and see who salutes. We've had conversations with A.D. Makepeace at different times about some of their workings and how they're putting in pathways that could be used and so forth behind some of their houses along, I forget the name of that road again, the new developments they put down there. Tyhonet Road. They already have pathways in there. And we see that line going in towards Carver and so forth as a secondary off the main artery, but the main artery has to be built first, and that connection has to begin near the Marion line. If Eagle Holt isn't amendable to it, doesn't want to talk or anything, that's their privilege. I mean, they own the property. Any property owner has the right to say, absolutely not, or whatever. But we don't know until we talk, and we're sort of thinking that would be a good thing to do. Just sit down in a room, have a conversation. We may find that all they're looking for is an abatement for taxes along that stretch to let us use it. I don't know. I mean, but we have to have the conversation. So that's what I think we believe that.
Is that a conversation, excuse me, that the bike path is comfortable having with them, or is that something you want us to invite them into?
That's our dilemma. I don't think we really mind doing that, but we don't want to do it without your
Well, I guess
direction,
from my perspective, and I can't speak for my fellow board members, but if I want to do what you're comfortable with, I don't want to give you some direction that's, doesn't help the matter at all. So I'm trying to ascertain here
Right.
what you want to come of being here before us tonight, so that I can help you get to the next part.
If the board is okay with it, we would love to contact them on behalf of the town and say, we'd like to have a conversation with you. Now, they could just say, no, we don't want to talk to you, we want somebody in higher authority, but we'd like to begin that conversation, is what I think we'd like to do. Just to say that we're there beginning the conversation. Now, again, where it goes beyond that point and whether or not it needs, the town administrator or yourselves to make formal declarations and so forth, I think that comes afterwards. We're still a lot of preliminary stuff in our minds. We're still living in a feasibility study, and we're not beyond that point yet. We're working on the process of filling out all the paper that leads to, actually making it happen. But again, with the potential of Walmart moving onto the west side of town and what's going to be happening along Cranberry Highway, there's lots of ample room here now for us as the town to make some huge inroads in having this thing established and actually made. So this is one of those pieces of the puzzle that we'd like to see happen, if we could begin the conversation. And from there, let's see where it leads us,
Mr.
I'm all
Snyder?
set, thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
I think that the bike path is will be a tremendous asset for Wareham, and I think that you're right. It starts with communication, but I also think, and I certainly respect that you're comfortable reaching out to Eagle Holt as a committee on your own. But I think, from my standpoint, I think it would be beneficial to include the town administrator from the beginning, just so that we're all on the same page going into it.
Sure.
But I would certainly support, approaching Eagle Holt.
Yes, I agree with that. He did consult, turn the matter over to Mark Giffords.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Mr. Andrews did refer the matter to Mark Gifford, and
Excuse
I
me.
think it's
Want to speak a little closer to?
okay.
Yeah.
Get right on.
Yeah,
Okay,
get
is
right
that
on.
is that better?
There you
Okay.
go.
Mr. Andrews did turn the matter over to Mark Gifford, and we have not heard Mark Gifford, and I think it's important to have his ideas and his input, and he certainly had a lot more experience than any of us have, and as well as the town administrator. We certainly need to have their guidance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, since Mark Gifford's been around here longer than all of us, and he knows everybody. You know,
And-
that would be the ideal
And a
route to
few
go.
years when we did talk to him, he had a lot of ideas also.
Now, for that length that you need for Eagle Holt, what is it on your map?
It's about a mile or so.
Right.
And again, it's the old abandoned rail line, and from a certain point, the state does own it. You know, we need to get, that approval. The state is amendable to giving it over to the town, their section of it. But they're also asking for certified road layouts is another issue that we put before the town administrator and Mark Gifford to come back with certified road layouts so we can say that our roads are exactly what we say they are. And so those are the pieces of the puzzle that, again, could be melded out pretty quickly if went after. I mean, that's the truth.
Mrs. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Langford, there's only one portion for Eagle Holt, is that right?
Yes.
My question, I guess I have a couple of questions. My personal opinion is that it should come from the town side, because granted that there can be some communication from the bike path committee saying this is the use that we would like to have of this property, but I don't think that the bike path committee is in any particular position to negotiate anything. And my other question is this: if it was a rail bed at some point, and it's now considered abandoned and private property, was it and is it an easement? So I guess that I would like to get more information that we could probably obtain that isn't necessarily something that you could in any easy way. So I guess, and they want to know they want to know road use. We have still road commissioners. So I guess it should come from this board.
Right, well, that's why we're discussing it now, so we can get all the options, and then we can probably, whatever direction we're going to go, we can make sure that it's adhered to.
Absolutely.
But we can certainly ask the questions if there's already an easement that exists there, or is this something that we would have to negotiate something with Eagle Holt? I mean, those are the kinds of questions that perhaps the town side could reach out to Eagle Holt and see if they would enter into any kind of conversation with us, as
Right.
opposed to starting with the bike committee.
Now, when you did your survey with Sampson and your
Western
engineers, now they must have all that information in front of them, because if you know Eagle Holt owns it, they must have done their homework.
Unfortunately,
So-
Weston and Sampson didn't do their homework on that, and they went to the state. The state had told them that it was intact, and it wasn't until Lois went looking for it, because she was starting to research for the layout of the roads, that she saw that all these deeds existed on part of that abandoned rail line. So it was our research on something completely different, heading towards finding out specifics, that we discovered that, And again, a feasibility study is not, it's nothing more than a draft of a blueprint saying what is possible, and it gives you options and so forth. But we were kind of dismayed by that, of course, because we were looking at a document that we had spent almost $25,000 on, and we thought it was completely clean and clear, and they went with a statement through downtown Boston that the people in the railroad division of MassDOT said they owned it. They didn't do their research. Had they done that, they would have come back with saying that these are pieces of private property and so forth. And the feasibility study, it clearly states that the state believed, they said that it was primarily intact from that point, from Blackmore Pond Road up. And so, like I said, we discovered it, that it wasn't so, and so we were kind of anxious about it, and that's where we are today with that piece of it.
Okay, Mr. Holmes?
I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen direct the town administrator to write a letter on our behalf. One, supporting the bike path. Two, and this letter should be addressed to Eagle Holt Company, that the Board of Selectmen support the Bike Path Committee's efforts and the bike path in the town of Wareham, and request a meeting with Eagle Holt to discuss this section of the rail beds.
I'll second for
Motion made,
discussion.
motion second.
For discussion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit concerned about getting too formal at this stage. I mean, the question that it's a simple yes or no question that we have to ask at this point, and that is, are they willing to sit down and talk with us?
Right.
And you know, if I was the CEO of a company getting a formal letter asking them to come to a meeting, I'd get a little bit nervous. I mean, I would prefer that Walter, you know, send them off a letter, you know, in conjunction with the chairman of the Bike Path Committee, and just ask them if they're interested in a meeting to discuss this.
Yeah, well, I think like
what you
Elaine had mentioned earlier,
That's what you said.
Mark Gifford knows everyone around.
Well, he
And
does.
I think between Mark, myself, and Mark Andrews, we should be able to set up some kind of dialogue so we can get together with the Bike Path Committee also and have you involved in it, because you know more of what you want than we do. So why don't we get together and set up with Mark on Thursday? He has open door policy. Just make your appointment, go in there, and that'll be a starting point for us. And then you can get up with myself, or if they decide any other of the selectmen want to be involved in it, you know, they're welcome to it. But I'm available. They know how to get in touch with me easy. I'll be ready to go, because that's one of the things I'm hoping to support for the town of Wareham, because we have a good recreation area in this town, and we can make it one of the top summer locations on the Cape.
It really would. I mean, that's the big thing about it. We have a lot of great recreational areas. This would help link some of those areas along with
Amen.
some of the shopping areas, some of the historical sites. And for the most part, it's mostly free, especially under this new environment that we're dealing with. We've got to somehow break that little logjam that's, you know, stopping it from happening, and it'll pay big dividends for our town, I think, in the long run, for a lot of different reasons too. So.
Any other questions?
Just an observation, I guess, Mr. Chair. I guess what I would like to see is that this meeting happen, if it's going to happen, as soon as possible, because this has really stopped the Bike Path Committee from progressing any further.
Right.
I mean, Mr. Smith was here before this board discussing kind of linking with other towns, because, and he's bringing that to the Bike Path Committee. There are other things that they're already looking forward, saying since there may be road reconstruction, that perhaps the Bike Path Committee could encourage the town to negotiate some of the construction that they're looking for. So because the Bike Path Committee right now is at a standstill until this is resolved, I would hope that the letter would go out as soon as possible.
Well, that's what we were just talking about Thursday. Why don't you make an appointment for the open house, and then we can get together as a group and see where we need to go from there.
Okay.
And just stay on it so we can keep moving.
Yep.
Right now, any other questions? We have you need a letter of support, a motion. So, are we all in favor of the support? Okay. And no other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 5-0-0. So set it up.
Yep.
And we'll go from there, and either any one of you can come up once you guys get together.
Yep.
And we'll make sure it happens.
Okay. Thank you.
Because it is a great thing. Thank you very much.
Yes. You look like you have a question. You look like you have a question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Is he ready? Is he ready?
I'm sorry. I probably look like a deer in the middle of the headlights. I just made a motion, and we just voted on a motion to send a letter. Have Mr. Andrews send a letter to Eagle Holt, correct?
Correct.
Stating the board and the town's support for the Wareham Bike Path, and to ask them to have a meeting or get together and discuss some of these issues. So I guess I'm confused. My confusion comes in. We just voted to do that. Mr. Andrews will probably get that out tomorrow. Wednesday or Thursday does it pretty quick. But I'm not sure what Thursday night would do.
Well,
We said we wanted to have a meeting Thursday night.
well, I'm
right?
saying for him to get up with Mr. Andrews so we can get together. If we start, you've been waiting this long, so if you put it on Thursdays, and then we can get together, and we'll see how fast we can move with this. We have 5 selectmen. I said I'm available. If any other ones want to step in, they're welcome to it.
Okay.
So once we get it, and then you can know which way to
Sure.
draft the letter up, you guys get together, and
Okay.
so we can move forward on this, so we won't be taking so long. So this has been going on for a while, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good idea. I think it's kind of, you're viewing it as kind of like progress meetings to make sure that we keep the ball moving forward. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and
That's,
then
I think
with
that's a great
Mr.
idea.
Mr.
Okay.
Langford and Olean, I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
can make it move, and Mr. Smith.
Absolutely.
Does Lois have something to add? Did you have something
Okay.
to add?
We also have the report regarding the project needs form and the MassDOT Highways District 5's
If
response
you want
to.
a little closer to the
Okay.
mic,
Okay.
I have
we-
the same problem.
We also have the report regarding the project needs form and MassDOT Highways District 5 response to that, the feasibility study, that there are more issues involved that need to be resolved regarding the right-of-ways.
That's the road layouts that we were talking about.
I think you have it. That's a letter dated May 6th there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Additional information and documentation. It's on the 4th paragraph,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we did the comparison study with the proposal versus the feasibility study, which we turned into Mr. Andrews and the CPC for them to evaluate as to whether Weston and Sampson would be responsible for any other work that needs to be done in answer to MassDOT Highways questions.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Begley. Wouldn't this information be in the municipal maintenance office? Wouldn't that be where, or in the planning department?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have this information. Did I miss something?
Mm-mm.
It should be all in the hands of the town administrator, all of this,
Okay.
where he's filed it or.
So can I just suggest that when this meeting on Thursday takes place, that this be on the agenda to be discussed and a deadline set for this, because May 6th is quite some time ago now. Maybe Mr. Andrews can light a fire to get this accomplished.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, it's going to take all of us, as you mentioned, to light the fire, so we need to stay on it. So get it started. Let's see where we're going. If we need to bring it back, we'll bring it back so we can get more information also.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring all the information. If he doesn't have it, bring the information with you just for backup,
Right.
just to make sure he has it. So we can, any loose ends, so we can work on it and get it going in the right direction.
Right.
Mr. Chair, we could also, if I might suggest, have a standing appointment with the bike path the first Tuesday of every month, so that we can keep up with what's going on, and if things start to stall again, we can give the appropriate direction.
It's fine by me. That'd be,
Yeah,
So I'm-
we'd love to be here.
I make a motion that the bike path committee meet with the Board of Selectmen on the first Tuesday of every month indefinitely.
I'll second it.
okay.
Motion made to have the first Tuesday of the month for the bike path committee to be before the selectmen.
May I
Motion
just
made, motion second.
May I just ask a question?
Any other questions?
Yes. Is that convenient for someone from the bike path to attend?
Probably, yeah. Our meetings are typically Wednesdays on the third Wednesday, so we're not in any conflict whatsoever. And Some of us are missing because of other meetings tonight or on vacations, but usually there'd be more of us here. There's 7 of us. We now have a full committee, which is really great. You know, so some of the work gets divided nicely now. So, you know.
Maybe it would be nice if one of the selectmen will step up and attend your meetings. Then
We had.
It's conflicting with. Unfortunately, Mr. Cruz, I am the liaison, and it's conflicting with a couple of my other committees that I'm on. I'm trying.
We did have your attendance, which was great. Great direction. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very
500.
Thank you.
First Tuesday of the month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next up, we had the MassWorks
Okay, from
grant program.
MassWorks.
MassWorks, we have someone in the audience. You don't mind if I step out? Excuse me, I want to step out a minute. Mr. Holmes will take.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gene.
Jean Connaughton, Chairman of CETA.
You
And-
gotta get right on top
Right
of
up
that
on top
thing,
of it.
please.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Jean Connaughton, Chairman of CETA. And the reason I'm here tonight, because I noticed that you had the Mass Wareham Works grant program on your agenda. And so I wanted to be here to remind you that Mr. Sanborn had come in August, and it was part of his report. And then to be sure, if you had any questions, I would be here to answer them for you. So I'm not sure why it's on the agenda, but I am here. We're, at this point, filling out the application. The deadline is this Friday. And what we'll be doing is applying for $1 million to pay for the second, third, and fourth phase of the downtown revitalization. We are now, the day after Labor Day, we put out the RFP for the first phase. And so that will begin shortly, we hope. This fall, we're going to just deal with the roadways between Merchants Way and Main Street, so there won't be too much disruption. And then once the weather clears in the spring, the final part of the contract will go forward. So we're hoping with this Mass Works grant that we could then, if we were lucky enough to receive it, to continue on with the project. Otherwise, we have to keep stopping and waiting until we have 2 grant cycles to obtain enough money to move on to the next cycle. So right now, we have the money from the 2010 and the 2011 grant to move forward through the spring. So we had discussed this at a meeting, I think, in the spring, that we were going to apply for this grant to see if we could just move forward and eliminate all the delays that we've had. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Winslow?
I could be mistaken, and unfortunately, I guess my whole packet didn't get printed, but the packet that we got online, I thought had documents from 80 Makepeace.
The Mass grant, this program is too full, and that's why it's on our agenda, because the Board of Selectmen need to vote to authorize Mr. Andrews to proceed. There are 2 grant, their state has a bucket of money right now, and it's about $31 million. The targeted projects are those projects that will be ready, approved, and ready to go by the spring, is my understanding. I may not be perfect on this. And there are 2 applications that the town is looking to apply for. The first application is for the downtown streetscape program, and the second one is the road work to be done between the current medical office building and the secondary building out at Makepeace. My understanding is that the deadline for submission was extended until this Thursday. It could be Friday, but I understand it was Thursday, not Friday. And that the town, Mr. Andrews, has some sample applications that were forwarded to him. And my understanding is he's working with Mr. Sanborn and Linda from Makepeace. You've been assisting him with getting these things filled
Yes.
out.
Yes.
But the board needs to vote to authorize him to go ahead and do that. My understanding on the state side is that right now, it's $31 million available. We would be able to apply for both of these programs, these two grants under this program. And right now, as I understand it, there aren't that many applications. Shh, don't tell anybody. But so hopefully, we look good at this point to hopefully get both of these projects in.
So
That's
we,
my understanding of it.
Okay, I'm gonna step in a minute on both programs. We're ready to go with our grant. Makepeace did approach us. They were supposed to have another meeting with Mr. Andrews this week and with Mr. Sanborn tomorrow to find out how it's gonna go. We're gonna proceed with ours. Friday, we're gonna send it in and we're gonna proceed. We talked with Mrs. Burke, Miss Burke, and we're all in agreement. We're gonna see how it's gonna work out because there's 350 some odd towns in Massachusetts and everybody's looking for all that money. If we put both grants in together, we may end up with one. So when we talk, their grant is important, ours is important. We have 3 phases in ours. That one grant will cover all our phases. We're done. With the project they got, if they get it this year or next year, I don't think it's going to hurt them one bit. But we'll let the Makepeace Company and Mr. Andrews work it out, and with the CETA director. But right now, our main focus is the grant that we have on the table for the town of Wareham. And then we're going to work with Makepeace Company. If we can get both of them in and approved, that's good. But if we can't, then which way do we go? We have to make that decision.
If I could make a comment.
Yes, Mrs. Burke.
When we met with you yesterday, we talked about whether it would be allowed, whether the state would allow us to submit more than one application. I contacted them today, and as Mr. Holmes noted, they're looking for applications, and they're actually encouraging communities to do up to 5 applications. So they would certainly allow for 2, and they were very clear that each one would be evaluated on its own merits.
Right, and that's what you were supposed to talk to him, and you're going to wait
Yep.
to talk to Mr. Sanborn. So I think if you all get together, it's supposed to be in by Friday, and I think after that the paperwork is, I think they said 2 weeks to have it in, and it has to be with the town. Not only that, if they go with the private road, I'm just going to put this information out, that's a private road. They're going to have access, they need to give us the access, so we're going to have it. So there's other things that need to be worked out if we're going to go with this. So I think before we put too much information out there, if Makepeace Company and Mr. Andrews and Mr. Sanborn get together.
Well, I think we would ask that the Board of Selectmen authorize Mr. Andrews to submit the application.
Well, I want to make sure that we get up with Mr. Sanborn first, and before we authorize anybody to do anything, we need to discuss it and make sure that we're heading in the right direction. And I think we will be heading in the right direction, but just to give someone authorization right now to go ahead and put it in, I'm not privy to that. That's like a blind check.
We wouldn't have another opportunity.
Mr.
Well, yes, you
Chairman,
will.
the deadline is Friday. This Friday.
It's right, to put it in, and it's all done on computer.
Right, but we don't meet again until next Tuesday. Mr. Andrews needs the authority to submit these grants for the deadline. I thought it was Thursday. Maybe it is Friday. We have to give
Just to
Mr.
submit the application.
We have to give him the authority to do that.
Right, but we still may need the paperwork on how is it going to work out.
Oh, we would certainly provide all that.
Right, I
as
know
part
you
of the
will.
application.
I know you will because you have a good team and you know what you're doing, but we want to make sure that everything's done right.
If we miss this opportunity, we don't have another chance until next September.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I just ask a question? Through you to Ms. Burke. Ms. Burke, you are a secondary grant, you would be the secondary sort of sub-account on this grant, correct? You can't apply for it unless the town applies for it?
Exactly. The town would be the applicant, that it would go through a public procurement process, and the town would manage that. We would do whatever legwork was required and that we were allowed to do, but it definitely is a town project.
Mr. Chairman, would you consider entertaining a motion to approve subject to the town administrator and Mr. Sanborn's approval?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that. That's what I'm getting at. We need somebody to work on this to get it done quickly and as economically for everybody as we can. So, I see it.
Okay.
Thank you. So, excuse me. But anyways, we talked. I think we had a good conversation with Mr. Sanborn. Mr. Andrews wasn't there that day, so he should be in tomorrow. And you need it done as quick as we need it done. So why don't we get together? When I say we, I'm talking about the town and Mr. Sanborn with the CETA director. And I know we can work something out because there's nothing up there that we can't do. So, and if you did your legwork and you did check, and they're privy to having more than one, because when we talked yesterday, was it yesterday? The day before? Anyways,
Yes.
when we talked, that's what we was worrying about, that
Right.
make sure that they would accept more than one.
Absolutely, yes.
And don't, when they get it, look at it and say, well, we want this one and not this one, so.
They were fairly clear that they are encouraging as many applications as possible.
Well, if they are, well, then we will put 2 of them in. Mrs. Winslow?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I didn't second Mr. Schneider's motion only because I think that this board is the one that directs. Oh, what, did you not make a motion?
No.
Oh, I must have missed her. Okay, so what did you just say?
If you would entertain a motion.
Oh, if you would entertain a motion. Oh, okay. I wouldn't be comfortable with that because I don't want to, if there's grant money available, both these projects are important for the community. The project over the new medical building, Rosebrook, is the single largest economic development project in the town right now. The Main Street streetscape is, what we desperately need to revitalize the business on Main Street. If we're granted both or one or the other, it's going to be a benefit to the town. The town administrator should be authorized to submit both grants, and we're going to hope, cross our fingers, that both of them are given to us. But I'm not comfortable leaving our decision in the hands of Mr. Sanborn, who's a paid consultant. I mean, I think that we need to tell we obviously need to vote on both, but we need to authorize Mr. Andrews to submit both of those grants.
Well, you're talking about Mr. Sanborn. He was all in favor of moving forward. All he wanted was more information, like we're all asking right now. More information to make it go. We're privy to making it move, and we will make it move if it's feasible for both of us. And it sounds like with the information that they got back, it will be good because they're supposed to have another meeting tomorrow with Mr. Sanborn.
Yes.
Because he comes in on Wednesday, so I don't think there'll be any problem. You want to entertain a motion to?
I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen authorize Mr. Andrews to submit the grants for the Mass Work Infrastructure Grant Program on behalf of the Community Economic Development Authority and the AD Makepeace Company.
I'm not a legal person, so I have to see how that is because, in other words, the way you're wording it right now looks like a directive. But he's going to go and make sure if it's feasible for him to do it, he'll do it.
Well, Mr. Chair, what I don't want to have happen, since the 5 of us are ultimately the ones that have to take the vote, is for Mr. Sanborn, for whatever reason, to decide tomorrow that the Makepeace grant isn't feasible, and then we're not awarded the Streetscape grant, and we end up with nothing, while 350 other communities get something.
I don't think that's going to happen, Mrs. Winslow.
But
the
we don't know.
conversation we had yesterday, I think we were all on the same ship, heading the same direction to get whatever needs to be done, but we needed to have more information from the Makepeace Company, and Mrs. Burke has gotten that information. The only thing is she couldn't come back today because Sanborn's out and Mr. Andrews out. They'll both be in tomorrow. I think they can resolve it, and we can go forward. Whatever needs to be done, we'll do it.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Ms. Winslow, I think that was the intent of my question when I asked you know, if he would entertain a motion to, subject to the town administrator's approval. I don't want to sacrifice one for the other. Basically, what I'm asking is, you know, authorize the town administrator to apply for both, but not to sacrifice one because we can't get the other one. That's the simple answer to why I asked that question.
Well, I guess, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Schneider, I don't want to make a motion and approve something for somebody else to decide tomorrow. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if the concern was that we couldn't submit more than one grant, and I believe that Mr. Holmes stated earlier on that, in fact, we can, and that they're looking for grant applications, then I don't see what the issue at this point would be. We should put both in. If there's anything else out there that we could throw in the next 48 hours, you know, we could post a meeting tomorrow morning and meet in time. I want to see this community benefit as much as possible from these types of monies that are available. Those are our tax dollars, you know, that go into the state, and we should bring as many of those back here as we possibly can. My understanding was that was the only issue. And if that's not a problem, then I don't know what the problem would be. Nobody's really articulated another issue to me, I guess, is part of the problem. That
I agree with most of what you're saying, Selectman Winslow. All I'm saying is, you know, the motion would be to allow the town administrator to proceed to apply for both grants, to authorize him to apply for both grants. You know, subject to his approval if there are issues that come up. We've already heard that there's a deadline. I want to make sure that we meet the deadline to at least apply for whatever grants that we possibly can, because those are valuable tax dollars that the town needs.
well, I guess that, Mr. Chair, through you, my issue is that technically we are responsible for both the town administrator and the CETA director, so I don't understand why we would make a motion to tell them to do something based on their approval. And it's our job to express to them what we want to have happen.
Well, the way your motion was presented, it looked like we were directing them to do both of them.
Submit the grants, yes, that's
Right,
what
we need to look at it and have them do whatever's appropriate to get it done. And I think if we do it that way, he's going to have to come back to us one way or the other.
But there's no time.
And if you want to attend the meeting tomorrow, you can attend it. I don't know if you have a time set for tomorrow.
I think we were looking at mid-afternoon.
Did you want to attend?
No, thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Chair, if I may, again, I'm not sure what all in Mr. Andrews, and he's not here tonight. I mean, unfortunately, the man is ill. In his report, and I read from his report, the town is pursuing these joint funds for our Main Street project and economic development infrastructure program at Rosebrook Place. I will keep you posted. What he's asked for is the Board of Selectmen to grant him the authority to put in for these and to continue his mission and pursue these two grants. So I'm not sure I understand what all this debate is about. It's in his report. He's asking for our permission to put in for these two projects. So I'm not sure what the problem is.
Well, that's it. But in other words, you're not directing them directly to do it. You're asking them. And that
We have to give him just grant him, he's asking for us to vote to grant him authority to put in for these grants.
Amen.
He feels he needs it. I don't know that he necessarily needs it, but he's asking for it.
Isn't that what I said, the authority? Did I use a different word?
I'm just using his report. I know he's not here. I don't know. Somebody
Anybody
here
else
from the
like to make
office.
Do you want me to rephrase my motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, if you
Okay. I move that the board grant Mr. Andrews, the town administrator, the authority to submit grants under the Mass Works Infrastructure Grant Program for the Community and Economic Development Authority and the AD Makepeace Company.
Motion made by Mrs. Winslow.
I,
I hear a second.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, to Mrs. Winslow, you mind if I took a stab at this? I'd like to use Mr. Andrews' report. I mean,
Okay,
I
go
understand
ahead.
he's
I'll
ill.
withdraw my
and he's
motion.
not here.
Withdrawing, okay.
He's not here to speak for himself, so I'm only reading his words. I just make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give the town administrator the authority to pursue these joint funds for our Main Street project and Economic Development Infrastructure Program at Rosebrook Place.
Second.
Now, that was easy.
We need one of those little red
The
buttons.
second, I had two together. Mike,
You can give it to him. I don't care.
Mike, okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Thank you.
Right. Just
Thank
let me know
you.
what time it is.
Thank you
I'll
very
probably
much.
be there.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Campina?
What?
Guy, you're up.
No, I think that's us.
Sorry? Discussion laborer position at the Wareham.
Okay, I think I had put that on because what happened, I think last week we got a motion that they accepted someone to fill the labor position in the water pollution control facility, and I think we have 14 days to work on it. And I've heard that we have a problem where this fellow cannot work the hours that are prescribed for the Water Pollution Control Center. And for him to work, we're going to have to make special consideration. And I'm thinking if you want a job, you work the hours that are posted. If you can't, then we'll have to go somewhere else. We did have 5 applicants, and he didn't make it known at the time of the interview that he could only work certain days of the week or certain hours that he had to be off. So what I'm saying, since we have the 15 days, is to rescind this, and they'll have to go back to the rest on the board and see it. Because once we back up and do this for one, we got to do it for everyone. And we're in a predicament if we do
Mr.
it.
Chair,
If someone would,
isn't there a union contract in place at the Water Pollution Control
there's a
Facility?
union contract in place everywhere, right? But
So-
we have hours. We have
Right.
hours to work.
But that's all spelled out in that union contract. I mean, we don't have, you're right, we don't have the authority to change that.
Mr. Chairman, we have
You wanna call?
the director of the Water Pollution Control Facility here.
I was trying to keep him out of it for a minute, but
Mr. Chair, if I may.
yes, Mrs. Begley.
From what I understand, I am privy to a little bit of this, and I'll certainly listen to Mr. Campina, but the union had agreed to this, is my understanding. I mean, you can certainly tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Campina, but there may be extenuating circumstances that would put the town in a difficult position. Now, in order to discuss any of this, I'm not sure that it should be discussed in open session, but I'm willing to hear Mr. Campina out.
Mr. Chair, can I just respond to Mrs.
Yes.
Begley?
Mr.
If the
Winslow.
union, just as a matter of protocol, if the union was going to make a change to the collective bargaining agreement, it would have to be done in the form of a memorandum of understanding and/or a memorandum of agreement. And since we're the party to that contract, that should have been brought forth to us, because we don't know. I'm just saying, as a practical matter, if
But
even
Do
if
we know that doesn't exist?
well, it hasn't been brought before us, and that should have come before us so that we could take a look at it and determine whether or not that was a change we were willing to make as a party to the contract. But with that said, Mr. Campina.
Did anyone want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a question to you. Last week we received a notice from the town administrator that he appointed somebody. They had an interview process, and he appointed somebody, right?
Right.
And I don't have last week's packet, so I don't have the name of the individual.
Yeah, I
And
think
you-
if we leave the name off, it'll be
well,
right.
most
has nothing to do with it.
appointments come before us, and we meet the person and we ratify yes or no. So I guess my point is, are you asking us not to ratify that appointment? Because I'm
think he
not sure
said
that a lot of this
rescind.
detailed discussion is even necessary. Are you asking us not to ratify or to ratify the
What
appointment?
I'm saying is to ratify this. So we can make sure, well, what I'm saying, What I'm saying is, I think it was done, and it shouldn't be done because once, like you said, it's a union situation. We have hours to work, and when you apply for a job, you're told the hours, and you should be able to work them hours. If you have to do anything else, it's above and beyond, and once you start something from one person, if you've been in private business or even in the union, once you start something, it's predicated, and you'll have to keep it going.
So we interviewed someone, if I might just, one more question.
Right.
We interviewed people. We told them what the job was, right? We hired someone. The town hired someone. And then the person said they couldn't work the hours?
No, they're saying they can work, but they had to take whatever hours off to accomplish whatever they need to be done personally. So what I'm saying is that's a no-no. I see your hand up there, Mr. Cronin, but right now it's not open to the public. So,
Well, again, I don't think it's a matter of going into a lot of detail. I think if you're asking us to ratify or not ratify Mr. Andrews' appointment, then that's what we should do.
Well, Mr.
Right.
Chairman,
yes, go ahead.
I don't have any documentation in front of me from the union. I don't have any of this documentation wasn't included as part of the packet. And I'd like to hear from Mr. Campina. What's the story, Mr. Campina? My understanding is this gentleman made it through the 4th round of interviews.
Yes,
Is that correct?
original interview was myself and Mark Gifford. We had 27 applicants. We whittled it down to 5, which we submitted to Mr. Andrews. He interviewed, and he appointed. He asked me to call the individual and to welcome him aboard, which I did. At that time, he said to me that he couldn't work the hours that we agreed to in the interview, that he had some personal situation. And I said, okay. At that time, I discussed it with Mr. Andrews, the first that I heard of it. And we still move forward with the appointment. Since then, I've been approached by the union, and they're going to grieve it because the hours are not stated 7:30 to 4. And they feel that if this individual...
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Where is the documentation from the union that they're going to grieve it, Mr. Campina?
I don't have it because the appointment, once he starts, the day he starts, I will get, because they can't grieve until it actually happens. So my point is, they haven't supported it. In other words, where's the documentation that said they support the change of hours because they're not aware of it? That's the problem. So my contention is, I don't have a problem with it. The day it happens, I'll get the grievance. I'll forward the grievance because I'll be forced to deny it, and I'll forward it, and then the town can add that to the many grievances that are already floating at the treatment plant. So my purpose was to try to eliminate that, but of course it's not my decision, but this is what's happening, and it was brought tonight by Mr. Cruz, so that's where we are with it.
So there is, Mr. Campina, there's no letter from the union supporting this?
I have no letter from the union. Their position to me verbally by the steward and by the management is that as soon as he starts, it will be grieved. So I'm suggesting to you, if there's going to be a grievance, if they'd agree to it, then they wouldn't grieve it.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, first of all, I'm not sure who this individual is, and, you know, obviously my heart goes out to anybody that deals with those kind of issues that would interfere with a new job opportunity like that. So, but we have a contract, and while the 5 of us may not have our physical signatures on the contract, it's something that was bargained for, that was ratified by this board and by the union, and we need to stand by that contract until it's changed. And I think that the chairman is right that we do need to rescind that appointment. Because if we ratify that appointment with the knowledge that we have, the union's surely going to go forward with that grievance and probably an unfair labor practice. And we're going to be found in violation because it's, you know, a term and condition of employment hours of work. Think somebody else's shift is going to have to change or somebody's going to have to cover. It's going to turn into a big, huge mess. And while I really don't want to do that, and I want to say that publicly, this isn't going to be fun for any of us up here, I'm sure, because we all know how tough the job market is, but we bargained for something, not we necessarily collectively, the 5 of us, but that would be my position on the matter, and I hope my colleagues.
Well, what I'm looking at is avoid a problem before it starts. It could go either way, but why are we looking for a problem. We had 5 applicants. We have 4 other ones that are ready to go to work, just like he is. And for us to get in a predicament with the union, I think it's uncalled for. We shouldn't do it. They have the grounds, and we have the grounds to make it right and do it the correct way. So, anyways.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to rescind the appointment for the laborer position at the Wareham Pollution Control Facility, regretfully.
Motion made.
I'll second that for discussion. You made a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mrs. Winslow, you just made a motion to rescind the laborer position?
The appointment.
Not the position, appointment.
You know, I got to tell you that everybody seems to know about this. I don't know the first thing about this. I saw the letter from Mr. Andrews last week saying that he appointed somebody. I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything about this. There's nothing in these packets. I'm looking to see if I missed a page or an email. There's nothing in here that says there's a problem.
This all came up once the appointment was
How
actually
would we
made.
know?
It's a new issue.
Today?
No, I would suggest no. It was probably a week ago, maybe.
A week ago.
Yeah, at
And
least.
tonight, we're hearing about it for some of us for the first time because I don't know anything about this. So you're asking me to rescind somebody's appointment on, I have no idea what's going on here.
Well,
Wasn't informed.
right now, the information you have is that he was appointed. He has different hours than what we have. Our hours or whatever Mr. Campina has down there is 8 to 5, 8 to 4:30, whatever it is. And he isn't able, 3 days a week, I think it is, or whatever, he isn't able to work them hours. He'll be off, whatever, and everything is personal. So are we going to go along with it and have a union grieve, or have everyone on the force says, I can come in at 9 o'clock. If one can come in at 9, I can come in at 9. So before we go through all that, I think it's better if we stick to our guns and make sure we do what's right by our contract, because we do have a contract with the union. And even if they do write a letter from one individual saying he'll go along with it, yeah, they'll go along with it, because once they go along with it, that's protocol. Then they can do it. Then everyone can do it. Then every union in town can do the same thing. Well, I can come in at 9:30. I don't have to come in at 8:30. Because you've done it with this one, you can do it with all.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I guess I'm coming from the same point of view as Mr. Holmes. And, you know, I just don't know enough about the issue. And I understand that we have a union contract, but there are other laws that govern employment in Massachusetts as well, including the Small Necessities Leave Act. I don't know what the issues are specifically with respect to this laborer, but, you know, he's already been hired, correct?
Yes, he has been hired.
He's been offered a position, so he's subject to
start
all the laws of
September
Massachusetts,
18th.
in addition to the labor agreement with the union.
Well, he was hired, he's appointed, and he's hired to start the 18th of, which is a Sunday, 18th of September, which is, I think, this coming up week, this Sunday coming up. And the question becomes, is hours. We have to make special provisions to accommodate the hours. That's the
Right.
issue.
And my problem is, Mr. Campina, is there are laws that require us to make accommodations in certain circumstances. I'm not privy to the circumstances in which this gentleman is asking for accommodations. We may be required by law to provide.
I'm not sure, but the point is during the interview, the hours are made known. It is at that point you need to say, oh, by the way, these are the special circumstances that I'm presenting, and these are the hours I can and cannot work. Because during the interview, the original interview, it was asked, this position includes Saturday and Sunday, and the hours are 7:30 to 4. At that time, if you had an issue, it is your obligation to say, excuse me, I cannot work them hours, because if you did, we had to deal with it then before we move forward till we get to the final process. So that's the real issue. And then it became, oh, by the way, here's what has to happen. That's the issue.
And the laws you're referring to, Mr. Snyder, is if you're already employed and a situation comes up, then the employee I don't know if he has to, but he should give you the time if you have a family problem or whatever circumstances to give you. But this is a new employment. This is a new employee coming on. We have the rules in the beginning, and now we're going to change it. Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this person is not hired yet.
He hasn't started
in the
yet. Right.
If
Yeah.
I could finish, please. In the letters that Mr. Andrews sends, it says you have been selected or you've been appointed. You have to go do your drug thing and all that. And your appointment is on October 1st, subject to ratification of the Board of Selectmen. So technically, the person is not hired
Technically correct.
at this point until that
Point.
15-day
And we have 15
window
days.
goes
Once
by.
if we don't act,
I think that's how.
and
I
the
think
reason
that's
why
how
I
it
brought
works.
it up,
I think.
because
My
I just found this out, and for me we have right now, this is our last meeting. By the time we have another meeting, our 15 days are up. It's automatic. So we need to act on it as soon as possible, one way or the other. If not, we are going to have problems. I don't know if you've been in the union or what, but I've worked both sides of the fence, and no matter what side of the fence you work on, once you start something, is protocol, you're going to have to stick with it, or you'll have a court case. So a motion been made and second. Any other discussions? Yeah, Steve seconded for discussion.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify on one of the points that was made earlier, if a job is offered to a candidate and that individual isn't available to work the hours, and there's some type of disability or handicap that's protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, then we do need to make an accommodation. We can't not hire somebody because of a disability. But from what I've heard from people who seem to know what they're talking about, this is a personal issue. This is not a issue of a...
And I guess that's my problem, Ms. Winslow. I don't know what the issue. I don't know enough information to make a decision sitting here on someone's, employment future.
The individual has no disability.
I would agree with you, Mr. Schneider, and I don't like the fact that some of this stuff comes to us last minute. I mean, certainly, if Mr. Campina was aware of this last week, it could have been passed on to Mr. Andrews. It could have been sent out to us in a confidential email, so we all had a chance to digest it, contact town council, anything we wanted to do. Now we're sitting here at the 11th hour, and we're stuck making a very regretful decision, and I don't feel very comfortable with it myself. But if we fail to do this, first of all, they're not hired, they have an appointment letter. If we don't rescind the appointment letter and that individual comes to work on Sunday, then we pretty much own them, and whatever violations may have occurred in the union contract with the hours, and who knows how that's going to impact other people's schedules and overtime that could throw Mr. Campina's budget out. So, I mean, I would at this point, I would like to rescind the appointment letter. We can certainly, that would at least buy us time for Mr. Andrews to brief us on this situation, and we can always make another offer. There's nothing saying that we can't re-offer employment.
Or else, if the personal problem, whatever it is, can be rectified by that individual, and he says, yes, I can work those hours, then we have no problem. But he's starting off in the beginning telling us what we need to do to hire him. It sounds cold, but and it's a public sentiment thing, because we want to have everybody working. But we got to protect the town of Wareham and ourselves and everybody else involved with it. Now, if he can come back and says, I solved my personal problem, I'm ready to go to work them 40 hours, 8 to 5 or whatever it is, there's no problem. We're not making a problem. He's making a problem.
Well, but Mr. Chair, I think we're all feeling the same way. It would have been nice if we had been given this information prior to the meeting so we could have a chance to review it.
The first I've heard of it, as far as on the meeting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Campina?
I didn't know it would be on the agenda, and the first time I heard of the issue is when I actually made the phone call. It was weeks before that. The process was quite a while,
No, I
I
understand
wasn't
that.
made aware of the problem until I actually called the individual to tell him his hours, to congratulate him, and to bring him on at a specific hour. And it was, oh, by the way, did you know this? And
Did you inform the town administrator at that point?
well, yes, because the town administrator had already conversed with the individual and made
Okay.
this decision without me knowing. So
So
then
maybe
it
he
became an issue.
forgot to let us know, but now we're
Yeah.
being asked to make a big decision that, you know, has consequences both on
Right.
both sides of the coin, and none of us have a single speck of paper in our packet about it.
Any other questions? Motion made, second. All in favor
To rescind the appointment letter of the laborer at the Wareham Pollution Control Facility. And Mr. Chair, I would also just throw out there that if the rest of the board feels that uncomfortable, that we post a meeting tomorrow morning for Friday so that we can get information between now and then and deal with it in an additional meeting.
Well, that sounds good, because he may come back and say, I've solved my personal problem and I can work the 40 hours. I don't know. But
I'm trying to make everybody happy here, you know, we could sing Kumbaya or something, I don't know. I don't want a big problem to start on Sunday.
you have that right. Is motion second? Any other questions? You heard the motion? Okay.
I don't even have a copy of the letter, so I don't. Oh.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
No.
Mr. Holmes? Okay, it's a tie, it's a moot point, so we need to probably talk to Mr. Andrews to make sure that everything is done right. So it looks like everything's gonna go as proceed. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
would it be possible to have a meeting prior to, since the motion was lost, and Mrs. Winslow had made a suggestion about posting a meeting so that we get more information, is that possible?
Yes, it is. All we
Is
need
that still
two of us to
within-
call for a meeting, and you have a meeting.
Is that still within our 15 days, though?
Well, I think he gave us the 15 days was the last Tuesday, so
Why would somebody
Oh,
That was
start?
Might
the
be-
start of it?
it might have been,
When's the 15th?
What's
day,
the
Mr.
date
when
of
is
the
he starting?
appointment?
Whenever he's starting, it must be the end of the
Starts
15
the
days.
18th, which is this Sunday.
What's the date of the appointment letter? Do you have it?
I don't have the appointment letter with me.
You know
but-
what? I have it downstairs. You want me to go grab
Yeah.
it?
Do you have the appointment letter? I don't have it
I
on
do.
me.
With the pleasure of the chair.
I can look but let me look at my notes. I don't believe I have it with me.
It's got to be in here somewhere.
I have everything downstairs in my car.
Is it in the town administrator's report?
No, it's a separate
No.
piece of paper. Well, if it was in last week's packet, I believe what the charter says is that the clock starts the day that the Board of Selectmen receives notification. So technically, that notification date would be Friday, right? Does anybody have a copy of their, all my,
That would be the last day, correct?
do you have a copy of the charter?
Yes.
Unless you want to go ahead and set a meeting up for Friday and
The letter's dated August 31st, 2011.
executive session.
August 31st. So, August 31st. I don't think this wouldn't be an executive session. I don't think we can go in, I don't think there's a. Did somebody just say executive session?
I think it should be executive session.
I would agree, but I don't think that we legally.
Well, I will look. I have that too.
Does somebody have the charter?
I do.
You have it?
I left everything downstairs tonight because I thought the agenda was so. Today's the 12th. So the 5th,
There you go.
it's gonna be Thursday. If I can see the charter, there is something in the charter about appointments at the very end of the appointments.
What was that?
An appointment by the town administrator. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I speak? Mr. Chair? May I?
Mrs. Winslow, go ahead.
Oh, this is under the Director of Assessment. Sorry. Four two? Okay. Okay, appointments made by the town administrator shall become effective on the 15th day following the day, excuse me? I'm sorry. Following the day on which notice of the appointment is filed with the Board of Selectmen, unless the Board of Selectmen shall, within said period, by a majority vote of the full board, vote to reject any such appointment, or has sooner voted to affirm it. That means that if we were given notice in our packet, which we were given on Friday, correct? We were given the packet on the 1st of September for last week's meeting. That means we have until Saturday. Then we have till Friday. Friday's the 2nd. So then we have till the 17th, which is Saturday.
So you want to make a motion to have a meeting on Friday?
Mr. Chair, I want to call for a meeting on Friday at a time convenient for the board to further discuss this matter.
What's convenient? Set up a time on Friday?
I think someone else has to call for a meeting with me.
I beg your pardon?
I think it has to be 2 or more selectmen to call for the, if we want to follow the
Right.
protocol.
So,
Well, I
well, we will have the information. Let's set up a time. What time are we going to have?
it's,
Well, I will be working till 7 p.m., Mr. Chair, so I wouldn't be available before 7:30.
are you working in the
7:30
morning?
I work 12 hours on Fridays.
So that's 7:30 p.m. 7:30 going once?
7:30 works.
Works for you?
Yep.
7:30 going twice? 2 people, so it doesn't make a difference with me.
We'd have to have somebody.
Thursday we have the open meeting, 5:30.
Do it right after that, Mr. Chairman.
Before? At
Wanna do it
4:30?
Thursday?
Sure.
We don't have to have 48-hour notice, do we? I don't believe so.
48. We got it.
So
I can do Thursday at 4:30.
Well,
I'll have my,
5:30 is,
no, there's a meeting at Library Board of Trustees is Thursday also.
in the
well,
evening,
I think-
at
Six-
6 or 6:30. I think
6 o'clock.
Mr. Flaherty's here.
And then there's supposed to be a meeting prior to that.
So we have a 5:30 open meeting law on Thursday.
Right, but there's a meeting prior to the Library Board of Trustees meeting. I don't know, is Mike
So you
still
wanna do
here?
a 7:30 on,
No, I'll do 4. I mean, I'm gonna, I have my
no one mentioned the time yet. They just said
4:30.
Thursday.
4:30.
4:30 Thursday afternoon?
4:30?
Well, then we have a
Mr.
time.
Marks,
then we have
4:30.
a little break.
4:30 on Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, make the motion.
I make a motion to hold a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen, which, I don't know if this would fall under potential litigation.
We can do number one.
Number one.
Number one. To discuss,
No,
number
no,
one,
we don't need to do it. All we have is, we're gonna have a meeting, that's all.
The meeting shall be held in executive session. Well, no, we have to open it in general session. It has to be a
Right.
regularly.
Right.
So what is the motion?
Have a meeting on,
Thursday at 4:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's meeting room.
we'll have it posted tomorrow and it'll be correct.
Be here or be square. Mr. Chair, can, yeah, no, I'm not. There's a meeting at the library is it 5 or 5:30, Mr. Flaherty?
I think this is more important than,
Right, but didn't you send me an email about a meeting prior to that meeting? 5 o'clock. Yeah, so yeah, I can do 4:30,
You
but
will
then I
have
have to be at the
48
library for 5. Can we just stick with 4:30 though? Because I'm supposed to be at the library at 5 o'clock. Okay. Thank you.
so the only other way is, go with the open meeting, and once that's open, we call for an executive and go into executive. We have to be after the open meeting. You can't
Correct.
stop before
So-
5:30.
right. So if we, here it is, though, folks, we're making a decision about meeting. So if it was 48 hours from now, we would be meeting at 8:45 on Thursday
Right.
evening, because it has to be 48 hours, correct?
Yeah, but we
Am I
already,
correct?
Isn't
No,
there
we-
an exception if you have an
We have a meeting already.
unforeseen?
we have a meeting.
So we'll meet, so we'll continue that meeting, but it won't be on, but we'll amend the agenda, is that what you're saying?
What we'll do, we'll call, you
So
can
if
call for an
we-
executive.
If we've already got a posted meeting because we anticipate having a quorum of selectmen at the open meeting law seminar, then we can amend that agenda to include this.
Once we have an open meeting, we can call for an executive at the end of the meeting, whether we had it posted or not.
Correct, we can amend the agenda. So you could, yes, add that on. So you're
Even if it
amending the
wasn't on the
agenda.
agenda for us to have an executive, we can call for an executive.
Right, but you can, we're sitting here talking about something. I think that that's for some unforeseen circumstances, but we're planning this. So would probably best, Mr. Cruz, if you spoke to the ladies to amend the agenda? I mean,
If not, this will end, and that fellow will be hired, and then we'll have to go to whatever situation we have to end up with. We can decide, like you said, the motion was lost. We had Thursday at 4. It won't work on Thursday because it's not 48 hours. So,
I made a motion to meet at 4:30 on Thursday.
and that's,
No one seconded it, so
Meeting, as long as the chair, we request the meeting, the chairman schedules it. We don't have to vote to have a meeting.
well, right now,
I
Thursday
don't know.
won't do
I
it.
can't hear anything with this air conditioner. Okay, so we're not going to have a meeting. Did I miss? We are having a meeting?
We're amending the agenda, correct?
could you clarify? To clarify, we have a posted meeting at 5:30 on Thursday in Town Hall cafeteria for the open meeting law / ethics seminar.
Correct.
So that's the agenda, that we're
Right.
attending that seminar. I believe Mr. Cruz is planning on amending that agenda to include this meeting following the seminar.
After the seminar.
Am I right? No?
At any open meeting, you can call an executive meeting at the end of the meeting. You don't have to have it on the agenda. Even with the agenda, we have to have it posted 48 hours. So, but you're saying about the agenda. The agenda's been posted already. So if we post the agenda now, it won't give us 48 hours
Can I make a suggestion?
Mr. Chairman,
for the agenda.
Can oh, I'm sorry.
I would respectfully suggest, because we couldn't have reasonably anticipated this issue at this point, that we have a meeting scheduled for 5:30 on Thursday. I would suggest that we amend the agenda and add, a discussion of this item as well as an executive session, if necessary, to complete the town's business.
Is that a motion?
It's a suggestion.
Oh, okay.
Suggestion, yep.
Well, I can't hear with this air conditioner.
I'm trying to make sure that we comply with the open meeting law, simply.
Mr. Chair, my suggestion, I agree with Mr. Schneider's suggestion. I would just like to suggest that we call town council in the morning and make sure that we're in compliance with whatever we do on Thursday, and then perhaps
That sounds good to me.
one
So
of
why
the
don't we
nice
go-
ladies in the office could just whip us off a little email or leave us a message
Right,
and let us
now-
know.
Right now, we're shooting for Thursday.
Okay.
So be it.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk,
Are we moving along, Mr. Chair?
yes.
I see Mr. Slavin's back there smiling at me. Mr. Slavin, could you come up, please?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Slavin sent a email yesterday on regarding the capital planning. Hold on, Alan.
Sent it to Walter, has the actual letter.
I'm sorry?
Walter has the email. I sent it yesterday.
An email? I didn't.
I don't have the email with me. All I said, I read the email and I have it. We're discussing town meeting articles, so all you gotta do is present it according to whatever you have.
This
written
this
down.
goes back to, Mr. Chairman, if I could, this goes back to last week. We were discussing Article 1, and we got to some discussion about buses, and we questioned why the town administrator was being questioned, and Mr. Slavin was here as the Capital Planning Committee chairman, and so I invited him up. They had their meeting, apparently, you said it was on Thursday, and I asked you to come back this week to discuss this list and give us a report from the Capital Planning Committee.
Capital
So
Planning.
that's why we're here.
Okay, the Capital Planning Committee had their meeting last Thursday. The town administrator presented and explained each one of the items to us. At that point there, we had questions back and forth, but the Capital Planning Committee has not physically met. It's on our next agenda to discuss our basic position on the items. All we did initially at this particular meeting was go through the list with the town administrator so he can explain each item to us. So we're still not ready to discuss it as a committee.
Well, Mr. Slavin, and then I'm confused. I thought that's what was the purpose of the meeting. We're asked as the board to insert this article on the warrant on behalf of the Capital Planning Committee. Are you saying that you didn't review this or you didn't vote on this list?
We have not voted on this list yet. Our meeting went to from 9 o'clock to 12:30. We went through as much as we could. And the
I'm not.
I'm just
Alan,
letting you
I'm
know
not
it's
picking on you.
we haven't finished. We have a lot more work to do yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Well,
just so Mr. Slavin understands, we have to close the warrant tonight.
I understand that. The problem
Okay.
that we have is that this particular time through, it didn't follow the procedures that we've had in prior last couple of years. So we're working under a different set of
Mr.
circumstances.
Slavin, I can't hear you. You gotta talk.
We are working under a different set of circumstances compared to the last 2 years. Normally, we have the information ahead of time, it's been discussed and we know what's going on exactly. This time here, the particular article, it says submitted by the Capital Planning Committee. We did not see it until it was actually sent out on the 2nd. We never had a chance to discuss it or anything.
Fair enough.
Well, it looks like you'll be discussing it on town meeting floor then, looks like.
Whatever has to be done, but I as I said before,
Okay.
Walter, and the selectmen, I can't sit there and give you opinions as an individual. It has to be as a committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Community Events Committee to discuss their town meeting article. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please talk very close to the microphone now. Oh.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Susan Rickey. I'm chairman of Community Events, and I just handed out you somewhat of a report of what we've done for this past year. Our article is a continuing article year after year. It's the same verbiage to see if the town will authorize the Community Events Committee to expend a sum of money, funds drawn from 70% of hotel motel tax and 40% from parking meter fund. The funds will solely be used for continuing support and assistance of community events, projects, activities, services, programs, and public improvements which are of mutual interest to residents and visitors of the town, or to do or act in many manner relative thereof. We don't have an amount to insert as of yet because the accounting office doesn't have what the town has received from the state. And we know we're going to be a lot shorter this year than we had in the past for the simple reason a lot of the B&Bs have closed. We really had limited parking fees because from what I understand, many of the parking, a lot of the parking, according to some reports we heard, spaces were taken up by handicap during the summer months, to the tune of maybe 82 spaces. And that was something that has to be addressed. We also know that in the fall, we were given $25,000. And in addition to what we got previously from the fall meeting, we were able to fund those events as you see outlined in that report that I just gave you. That will also appear in the town report, so the residents will also have this, information, which is very important. We feel as if we want to say at this point in time, because we're going to have limited funds, that we may have to cut back on some of the application, well, not what we gift these nonprofit organizations. Specifically, we may have to postpone, according to the event coordinators of the fireworks committee, they did not receive the money that they had expected from some of the sponsors, the local businessmen. So at this point in time, they have decided that they may have to expend their money in, other events versus the fireworks. So that really is something important for us to look at, because it's been a yearly event, but the committee feels as if they didn't get the sponsorship from the local businesses that they had in the past. And while it generates a lot of activity for the town, we can't continue funding this. Now, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Bailey? Was it you?
it's usually me.
Okay. Mr. Winslow?
Are you suggesting that the town fund the fireworks, or that we don't do fireworks anymore? What's
No,
your...
I'm not suggesting anything.
Okay.
I'm just saying I'm just informing you what I heard from the Wareham Fireworks Committee. We
Okay.
don't make those decisions. We just receive the applications, we review them, we go through what, it's really for promoting something, but it's been a town event on a yearly basis since way back when it was visitor services. And we do support the town side of that, which is police, municipal maintenance, EMS, harbor master, and that's but the matching funds come from the Wareham Fireworks Committee, and they did an outreach to the local, the sponsorship from the businesses, and it wasn't there this year.
It's a very difficult economy this year, so hopefully by next year things will be much better.
And there are events that kind of support themselves, with additional help as far as promoting it. But as far as the fireworks, I mean that's a big chunk of money. We're talking like $18,000, and we were only granted $25,000 this year.
Right.
And we had to go back in the war chest from previous years. Fortunately, it's revolving, and you have to have a little base because we have things like people look forward to the Swan Festival, the Blues Festival, the Cape Verdean Festival, the Polar Express, the concerts, the movies. I mean, we have 26 events that received some kind of funding, which was very important. And people were very happy, but we didn't, as I said, they didn't get the sponsorships that they had hoped to. And some of those businesses, by the way, reaped a lot of benefits from the crowds being in there.
Mrs. Ritchie, we want to stick to the agenda. We're doing the capital, the warrants, and you're explaining
Well,
about
this is
seed.
we don't know
So
what the number is.
You don't know what so
No.
what we need to do is to vote on, we'll accept it without the numbers? Because the numbers are going to be stable. Whatever it comes out to, it's going to be, you have the percentages right here.
Inserted by the accountant.
Are we voting now, Mr. Chair?
We vote on them as we go if we like, and then that way we'll have it done tonight.
I like it.
No, we're just discussing the article at
Right.
this point, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna go down the list in a minute.
Any more discussion on this article?
Just one quick question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Derek. Derek, when do you think that you're gonna see that number? Do you know? Yeah. Will you have it by town meeting? Yes. You will. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Affordable Housing Trust article. Mrs. Slavin, is that you? Okie dokie.
Good evening.
Right up close.
Sandy Slavin, Chair of Affordable Housing Trust, and
Brenda Ekstrom.
we believe there is a problem with the warrant. We know
Which article are you on? Excuse me.
The article for affordable housing.
19.
19, okay.
Apparently, the wrong article was entered into the warrant, not as we submitted it. We submitted an article, Affordable Accessory Apartment Program, but that was not the article that was inserted in the town meeting agenda.
I'll explain.
I believe that was found out this afternoon, and you have a corrected article?
Your turn.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we're now talking about the Affordable Accessory Apartment Program is the article that we submitted. Any questions as to what's in there is wrong, and this is the one we want to talk to you about?
Proceed, please.
Thank you.
Talk right into that.
I'm trying
Okay.
without kissing it.
You gotta love the mic. The mic is your friend.
As long as I don't love the camera. It's the intent of this bylaw to provide an opportunity to bring into compliance none-permitted accessory apartments and apartment units in the town of Wareham, as well as to allow the construction of new dwelling units, accessories to exist single-family homes to create additional affordable housing. We have in the town of Wareham some accessory apartments that are not legal. They are pre-existing, they're non-permitted dwelling units. This article is to identify those units and to bring them up into being legal. And at the same time allowing the owners of these accessory apartments to have them identified as 40B affordable apartments. And then the second phase is once we've identified them and have an amnesty program in place, and then allow for new units to be identified and constructed. Brenda, you want to add something, please?
Many of you may recall, Mr. Chairman, many of you may recall a couple of years ago there was a fire in a Quincy house. It was a four apartment house, but there were 2 illegal apartments in the basement. And a father and 2 children were killed. Not only is that devastating for the family, but there is lawsuits to approximately $10 million between suing the landlord and the town, because the town was out there permitting and approving the other apartments. There have been, just this past year, there was one in Brockton where there was an illegal apartment where a woman was killed in a fire. What we're trying to do is we're trying to protect the landlords from something like that. We're trying to protect the residents who have, who are renting these apartments. And this is something, it's based on the town of Barnstable has done it. The town of Dennis has adopted theirs and done it. There's a couple of other towns in the Cape that have done this. And we think that this would be a very worthwhile thing for Wareham, because it would add affordable units without actually adding large tracts of land with a traditional 40B where you get 20-25% of the houses. And right now, as we know with the economy, rentals are definitely on the rise. So this is something that will also help satisfy that need as well.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. No, thank you.
Questions?
I do have a question. Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if I raised my hand. I printed out these emails from the town council as late as 5 o'clock. Mr. J. Taylorman. I don't know what he was given. He was given something, and he said that I think the affordable housing bylaw needs to be rewritten, and perhaps we should wait until spring.
Mr. Chairman.
Then he was given something else, and he responded back that he still had some issues with it. And as late as, I don't know, 5 o'clock, I mean, these things just kept coming in. Then we got a thing from Rich Bowen.
Mr. Holmes, I think he worked on the wrong one.
If I may, Mr.
Well, that's
Chairman.
what I'm trying to figure out is,
Yes.
if you might, Mr. Chairman, please. And this is what I'm trying to
I'm
figure
just
out.
trying to say you had the floor. Excuse me.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
No, I wasn't talking to you. I was.
Well, you said, Mr. Chairman, I'm letting you know.
Right.
You do have the floor. And I'm stopping everybody else until you finish.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to figure out this timeline here and what Mr. Bowen and Jay actually looked at. I don't know. There were no attachments.
Well, to answer your question, as far as I know, he was given the latest one, and he still says, I believe Article 19 involving the affordable housing bylaw is a great idea, but has numerous legal infirmities and other weaknesses, and has to be substantially rewritten. And he also recommends that we bring it back in the spring. Now, you're the presenter.
Mr. Chairman.
To you.
May we find out which one he is referring to? Because
was-
I believe he got the one that's posted in the warrant, which is the wrong one.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
he
if I
has it
may.
posted as, excuse me, he has it posted as article number 19.
And the 19 that's in the warrant right now is wrong.
If I may,
He had the new posting that we have in our packet that we have right now.
And what's the title of the packet?
It has the numbers that you have down on, whatever you had on the numbers, it changed. On the new one, it has changed. So,
Mr. Chairman.
it has changed. I'm saying, he did get the new numbers with the new packet, and he still recommends, for us to, wait until spring or let him, and he will help you to rewrite it or do whatever.
Now, may I?
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Snyder.
if I may, I would, the article that I think Mr. Talaman is, I know Mr. Talaman is referring to was a draft article that the Affordable Housing Trust was still working on. The article that's before you is drafted substantially in a similar form to the Barnstable article, which has already been approved by the Attorney General and vetted through legal counsel. It's virtually identical in every respect. So I would respectfully suggest to you that Mr. Talaman, you know, the communication that you're receiving is in relation to another article that the Affordable Housing Trust is working on.
And I have a
May I
time
see-
frame. Sorry, are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen the email, Mr. Chairman. May I take a look at it?
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Talaman was given the copy, the updated copy today, and he said that there's still problems. And I think in a case like this that if our town council is advising us that it needs to be further vetted, then we're better off letting town council do the job that we hired them to do.
and if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. And I understand that Jay may have some issues. I don't know what they are because we haven't heard from him. I will tell you that we sent this 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, to town council, the corrected one, the original one, and we got no response. And we requested it. I had brought it in paper, in the paper format to the office when it was time to put it in. And then I said, oh, I have it on a flash drive. When I did the flash drive, I did the wrong one, the draft one we were working on. So that's where they got confused. Mr. Talaman, I don't know, like if he said, the one that we're proposing is the one, it's 8:30, if you will. The one that we're working on for the spring is 8:40. I don't know what the specifics are, but as Mr. Schneider said, this is the one, this is very similar to Barnstable. And I don't know if he, if he looked at it and said, oh, I've already looked at this or whatever. I don't know because we weren't privy to any of those emails that were at 5 o'clock
soon as-
tonight.
I'll share
As soon
them.
as we got the information, the corrected one, as far as we're concerned, the one you gave us was here for the whole 3 weeks up until today. When we had it today, they faxed it to the lawyers, and he made the reply back. So he did look at the one you have. Now, you didn't change it until today. You said it was 3 weeks. It took you 3 weeks to correct it for today.
No, if I may,
And we
Mr.
have it, and the lawyer did comment on it.
No, if-
So what we can do is, excuse me, if you don't mind, thank you. We have the lawyers here. I've been hearing for weeks. We have a lawyer, let him do his job. Now we have other people trying to do the lawyer's job, and we should be using our lawyer if we're paying them to do it. And is it going to be detrimental for us to wait and have them look at it?
Well,
That's the question.
Well, I would say, and if I may, just to clarify, they had the corrected one 3 weeks ago. They had it. That was the one that was sent to them. it wasn't an error. The one that was sent to them, we sent it. I had called Mr. Andrews after the affordable housing meeting in August. I had called Mr. Andrews and got permission to send it directly to Mr. Bowen to review. I don't know. Then there was the mix-up when they were closing the warrant. But before the warrant was closed, before we even put it into the warrant, we sent it to Mr. Bowen. So they've had that one. Now, I was going to say, now Mr. Talaman may have not had that one.
So what you just said, in other words, they had it 3 weeks ago. So the comment that they made in the beginning was your original that you just put in. That's what you just said.
No.
You said you gave them the original 3 weeks ago.
I gave it to Mr. Bowen 3 weeks ago.
And he's on the law firm.
And I understand that, but it was Jay Talaman from the law firm that reviewed everything that was sent by the office, which was the wrong one.
May
Any
I?
other questions from the?
Mr.
May
Chair?
I?
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Begley?
Given the confusion, Mr. Chair, I would suggest, I believe that Attorney Bowen will be having office hours on Thursday. So a lot of this will be clarified, and I don't think that there's anything that would prevent us from putting this article forward, because should the Affordable Housing Trust meet with Town Council and reach the conclusion that it should be postponed till spring, it can be withdrawn on town meeting floor. So there's probably nothing to prevent us from proceeding from this point.
So, well, and you are absolutely correct, and there's no reason why we can't vote on it, no matter what. Thank you.
I would like to add something, please.
Go
I
ahead.
have an email from Jay on the 5th of September who said he had the Affordable Housing Trust article in hand. At that time, he had 840, the wrong one. I sent him a note today saying, I, as the chair of Affordable Housing Trust, have heard nothing from you regarding my article. When I last checked my emails at 6 o'clock, still nothing had come to the chair of this trustees. So I honestly do not know which one he's looking at. That's...
Mr. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, two things. To respond to Mrs. Slavin and sort of lay to bed the issue of Mrs. Ekstrom sent an email at 10:31 a.m. advising the secretary in our office that this is the correct article. At 10:40 a.m., Shirley forwarded that on to Jay Tallerman. He responded about an hour later and said, "Thank you, Shirley. This appears to be a little different, but still problematic in a number of ways." That was his response. So that was from Jay. So he did look at it. I'm happy to forward off that email to you so you have it for your records, public information. But now on to my, just to lay to rest your confusion and what he may have been looking at. My concern is that if we bring forward an article to town meeting, in order to withdraw it, it has to be, even if the proponents get up to withdraw it, it has to be voted on by the floor. You could potentially have people say, no, we don't want to withdraw it, we want to vote on it, pass it, and we've already been told by town council. I really think that this should wait till the spring so that Jay can work with the committee and work out whatever problems there are.
Mr. Begley?
Chairman Cruz, there's very, very seldom, I mean, I've seen many times, many proponents of articles get up and say it's withdrawn, and I've not really seen any kind of argument on town meeting floor. I think that if we bring this forward and permit the affordable housing to actually have a meeting, because there does seem to be some issues with communication with council and this very important committee, then let them have this conversation with town council on Thursday, who's supposed to be having hours there. They can certainly make an appointment. And if it needs to be, I can't imagine that there are going to be people on town meeting floor that demand that it goes forward now, as opposed to being withdrawn until spring. Because generally the proponents of the article will get up and say, I'd like to withdraw this till spring, and maybe with reason or not reason, but I've not really seen anyone vote against that and force us to vote on an article.
Any other
Mr. Chair.
question from the board?
Mr.
Holmes?
Chair.
Am I?
Mr. Holmes?
I guess, again, a lot of discussion. Our mission here tonight is to include articles on the warrant and close the warrant. This portion of the meeting is to discuss this article. Certainly, it's been submitted. Mr. Talaman and Mr. Bowen are saying that they have issues with it. Well, this is only what, September? Saturday the 13th. They have several weeks to work this out. They can make amendments on town meeting floor to make it work. Otherwise, our town council will stand up and say, this is not right. Himself. We don't need people to get up and do it. Rich Bowen or Jay Talaman will stand up, representing the town, and say, you need to put this off. I believe they've done that before. So I don't know that we're here to pick these things apart or even vote on them. Our mission tonight is to close the warrant and either include or exclude. And because you know what? I mean, I could go down the list here, Mr. Chairman, and say Article number 1, don't put it on the warrant because we don't know where the money's coming from. We just heard from the capital planning chairman, this wasn't even approved by them. So if you were to say that everything had to be perfect on September 13th for town meeting, we wouldn't have any articles.
You're absolutely correct, because most of the time at town meeting, we argue, right? Go ahead. Huh.
Because
Or
I can tell you,
discuss.
you can go
Debate.
through this book, and I got to tell you, right through all of this, nothing is finite until we get to town meeting. That's just the way I see it.
Any other questions? Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I do believe in the town moderators in the room, and maybe she can help us out, but amendments made to the article can't be substantial, is it, Mrs. Smith, in nature? Or we can't vote on it. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's not that I don't like the idea, because I think it's a good idea. But if our council is telling us that they're willing to work with us, there's problems with it, it needs to be rewritten, what is the rush? Why don't we do it right? Let's not publish something in the warrant that we know is not correct and confuse the voters with a bunch of amendments on town meeting floor. I mean, we pay these people to give us advice, and then we don't follow their advice. This just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Their advice was to work with the Affordable Housing Committee and rewrite it, and it can come back in the spring.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There was
Mrs.
nothing specific in the email you received from the attorney as to what was wrong, is that correct? There was nothing specifically addressed,
He said numerous.
but nothing, he can't point to what he meant by
Well,
numerous.
that's why
Yes.
you need to probably to work with the attorney, your committee, to work with the attorney to make sure we have everything correct.
And if the attorney is not being, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if the attorney is not being responsive to you, then that's something that needs to be brought to our attention so that we can ensure, because town council, as you know, Mrs. Ekstrom, works for the Board of Selectmen.
That is correct. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, one more thing. I understand Selectman Winslow's concerns with this article, but anything that is submitted by either a citizen's petition or a board or committee that is authorized, Mr. Holmes was correct that as far as that it is accepted. The discussion on whether you're going to support it or not would be the selectmen's votes. But as far as closing the warrant, it's anything that's submitted under the law you have to accept on the warrant. So while I certainly understand where you're going with that, we're only 2 members of our committee. We could not vote to withdraw that vote right now. We're not in a meeting or anything like that. So we only have the vote of our board to go forward with it. And if it is something substantial, you're absolutely right, we would withdraw it. And if there are minor issues, then we can address them, and would be happy to.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Chair, and I just want to clarify something to the viewing audience and those sitting right in front of us, Mrs. Ekstrom and Mrs. Slavin. In this email, which is public record from Rich Bowen, says to the extent there are articles that don't follow council's suggestions as of an hour ago, and it's not just the housing article, I want you to understand that. He's talking about CPC. I think there were some other articles they were talking about, a bylaw. Please do not view these as council approved, is what he's saying. So to include them on the warrant and strain it out as the process goes, I'm trying to think of the word. I'm sorry. I have the floor, please. Let me just try to finish that thought. Our job here tonight is to close the warrant and include these articles. There's nothing that we can find that says don't put the article on the warrant. Now, council will be there at town meeting, and he or she, if these issues aren't rectified, and Jay is willing to talk with the town about these articles. So, I mean, if it can be clarified with some minor adjustments, fine. If not, then you'll have to do it in the spring. And that's going to be what he's going to tell you.
Right.
And if the attorney gets up and says, you know, we have some issues with this, CPC, housing, whatever, do it in the spring, and people get up and vote to do it now, it's only going to get rejected.
Right.
And we waste our time,
That's
as
right.
we've done so many times in the past, as you know. So, I mean, it's not, we're having a discussion about your article, but it's on the warrant, or it will be. We can't reject an article from.
Well, you're absolutely correct. So instead of having all this conversation,
Mr. Chair,
we have it before us. We need a vote from the board. We need to have it voted so it can be in the warrant. It could be posted and printed. No. And if you're finished with it, then you can read it. If you agree with it, there's 5 of us here, whether it's 5-0, 4, 3, 2, or whatever it is. It'll be posted that the selectmen agree with it or they don't agree with it. And if there's questions, we do like we did in all the other town meetings. They got up, the FinCon got up and said, well, at that time when we voted, we didn't have enough information, so this is the reason why we voted. And they state their claim, and whatever happens, happens on town meeting floor. Yes, Mr. Beck.
Mr. Chair, we do have
Begley.
the.
I recognize.
Mr. Chair, we still have, I believe, we have item I, the discussion of town meeting articles, 3 petition articles to follow, and then any other articles that may come before the board. And it's my understanding that the process for this is that we have a discussion about, we go right through, and then we close the warrant, and then we vote. So we don't vote as we go with the discussion. As soon as we finish, and then we have any other articles that come before the board that may or may not be included in the warrant, then we close the warrant, and then the selectmen can vote on each article.
Mr. Chair?
Correct.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We would most likely, if we follow the path that we have in the past, not be voting on any of the specific articles tonight. But we also have the town moderator here with us tonight, so maybe she can help us with some of these issues.
If we heard enough discussion, unless there's other than that, we can just move on.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Clerk?
if I may, I'd like to just wrap. We're on the discussion of the Affordable Housing Trust article. Are we done with that? Yes? Are you done with your presentation? Okay. Then we can move on to the next one, if you don't mind.
Oh, it may not be part of this, but I have a question. On the town website, it's mentioned that the Affordable Housing Trust has an opening, and I'd like to know what that one was. I'm just curious as to why someone posted there was an opening in the Affordable Housing Trust when I know we have our 5 members.
I'll double check that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Flaherty? Mike Flaherty, are you still here?
Steve, I gotta take a break again.
Okay. I'm just going to go through, we got these 3 petition articles here. Good evening, Mr. Flaherty. If you could state your name for the record, talk right into the microphone, and speak to your article, please.
Mike Flaherty, Precinct 1. I'll keep it brief, and I'll try to just read right from the text.
Thank you.
The title is Improving Checks and Balances in Removals and Suspensions of Employees and Officers. Warrant article. To see if the town will vote to provide improved checks and balances for when employees and officers of the town dispute their removal or suspension or take any other action relative thereto. Motion. I move that the town vote to remove all of Section 7-9 of the Town Charter entitled Removals and Suspensions and replace it with the entire verbiage contained in Attachment A of this warrant article in order to provide improved checks and balances for when employees and officers of the town dispute their removal or suspension. Explanation. The recent public hearing for the The recent public hearing for the former town accountant has brought to light many deficiencies in the current public hearing process, which vests too much power in a single individual serving as judge and juror for their own decisions to remove or suspend town officials or employees. This warrant article seeks to remedy those deficiencies. And lastly, I'll just read the last sentence or two from Attachment A. Attachment A essentially replaces the word appointing authority with specifically the Board of Selectmen, and it does some other things too. But specifically at the end here, I wanted to say it is the intention of this section to vest authority and responsibility for suspension and removal of officers and employees in the appointing authority, but to provide a check and balance for when those removals and suspensions are disputed. Any questions?
Mrs. Winslow?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Schneider? Mrs. Begley? No questions. Any other comments, Mike?
I think it literally speaks for itself.
Right. Thank you very much. Is Mr. Knizia here? I know his son is in the hospital, so he's not here. Mr. Pasevich?
Yep, you too.
If you could come up, identify yourself, speak close to the mic, and explain Article 22.
Good evening. My name is Edward Pasevich from Precinct 1. This is a very simple article. I've noticed at the past town meetings, and especially the last town meeting, there were several pamphlets, documents, etc. passed out to members of the town meeting, and these documents were not identified. We don't know where they came from, who the author was, who the organization was. Yes.
Would you just, Ed, would you just take a moment and read the article so people know what the request is, please? I could read it for you if you'd like. It's Article 22, to see if the town will vote to require all information that is distributed at town meetings to include the name of the person, group, company, or organization on the information to be distributed, or to act or to do anything thereunto. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Please proceed. Thanks.
And that's all we're trying to do, is to inform the town meeting voters and helping them to identify where this information is coming from. I noticed at the last town meeting, I believe, that there were documents that were being distributed by organizations that weren't even in Wareham. They're outside the town. And people wouldn't know that because there was no identifying information on the documentation. So this is just an article to clean up that possibility and make it better for the town voters to understand who's submitting what.
Mr. Winslow? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
The only question I have is, did anybody approach the town moderator? And
Yes, I did.
because the town moderator has to approve everything that goes out there.
Yes, but it does not have on the document itself as the documents were already out there and approved by the moderator, the identification of who and where they came from. And I did send an email to the town moderator specifically stating just what the article was. And the response was, "I appreciate your concern, thank you." So instead of leaving this up in the air, I thought it was better to get us a bylaw so that we have something in concrete so that we can ensure that that doesn't happen again.
Any other questions for the board?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here tonight to speak to articles that are being submitted to the warrant? No? Derek? I don't know if does the board have any questions on Article 1?
Well, we're not voting on it tonight, right?
No.
Okay, so the only thing I would say to Mr. Sullivan is, you know, before we vote on it, we need to know where the money's coming from. So.
Well, once again,
Yes.
well, once again, you know, we're asked to be in, you know, we just went through this with some of the other articles. One, we're asked to be, this is being put on the warrant, considered by the Board of Selectmen at the request of the Capital Planning Committee. They haven't even decided what's on the list. This list has changed since last week. But we're just closing the warrant at this point so that these things can get in there. I mean, and then we'll go through these and vote on them when I forget what date we're doing that.
Okay, on Article 1 then, if we could just, you say we're just closing it? You wanna
We're
have
just closing it.
You want to have a brief synopsis on 1, and then that's it? Because you got, unless we already heard it before, because I think Capital Planning has heard this before from the police department, I think, or we did.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, maybe you weren't here. Mr. Slavin came up and gave us a report on that.
Right.
And that they haven't voted on any of this yet at the CPC. And that, I think he said, they were going to come back at another time after that vote was taken. So we don't know what the Capital Planning Committee is actually recommending for these capital improvements.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
I think all of them. Okay, Mr. Snyder, go ahead.
Just a question. If we're going to be going through all these articles again with the final numbers and with changes, and all these items are going to be, they have to be placed on the warrant, why wouldn't we just vote to approve the warrant as written and close it? Or vote to close the warrant?
Yeah, we are, but we're going each individual. He's taking a blank, he's looking for a blank check. In other words, just vote as it is.
Right. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually, typically,
well,
we
let's
give
continue.
the
Go ahead.
petitioners a chance to come and just explain what their articles
Mhm.
are, and I think...
The
Are there any
pre-town
more
meeting.
Before we... No more. Everybody's had the opportunity to come in.
I'm assuming we're going to hear back from them again as well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Beck.
So my understanding is the purpose of these discussions and because it's September 13th, that all we're doing is voting to close the warrant. That's it. We are not voting on each and every article this evening.
Well, I was hoping that we could vote on it this evening.
No, sir.
Okay, if we don't, then we'll have to do it next Tuesday because it closes. I mean, it has to be printed. Thank you.
Well, the problem is, I would do that. I don't know if I have a clean copy to do that, so I can't. Because mine, this one here I got is got the old articles in it.
No, the one you have here is, I think I put one right here.
Oh, this one.
You want to use mine, Steve?
Yeah, let me just make sure that we have the affordable housing.
Yeah, if you have the one that says 8:30 on there, you're good to go.
8:33.
Says 8:30 on 19.
My Mike's is awful heavy. There's a lot more pages in this than this one. Oh, is that what it is? All right, well, I'm trying to find an identifier on this packet.
That's the one that was sitting here.
Okay. I would make a motion. I would make a motion to close the warrant. Maybe I can do it this way. I'm trying to find an identifier. Yeah, I have to have Article 20. 22 ends with Mr. Pasevich. 22. I need something. Okay, let me see. 16. I'm trying to find a date on this copy of this document that we can use. I'd make a motion that we close the fall town meeting warrant of the town of Wareham. Articles 1 through 22 is forwarded to us in the draft version on September 13th at 7 p.m. as provided by the town administrator's office. How's that? I think we already did.
Steve.
Motion made.
I got that. Oh my! What was the time on that?
2:49. 2:49 p.m.
2:49 p.m. on September 13th.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made, second by Mr. Snyder. Any other questions? No other questions? All in favor, close the warrant?
Aye.
Then it.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Snyder, aye.
Aye.
Megan? Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, he
Aye.
said
Aye.
No.
No? 4-1-0.
Do you have to read this?
And then I would. No, we already did this.
You already read that?
I think we did this a few weeks ago when we went through the schedule. I'm trying to see who this is directed to.
Steve Coughlin, Constable of Wareham. It's on the, page 18.
I'd make a motion that.
Stephen Coughlin, Constable.
I understand that. I understand that.
All right. Okay, whatever.
Just not sure that. Okay, make a motion that we deliver. You are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting copies on or before September 16th in at least one public place in each precinct within the town, and by publishing a copy of the warrant by September 22nd. Failure not, and make sure due return of this warrant with your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of said meeting are voted and given under our hands on this 13th day of September in the year 2011, Wareham Board of Selectmen. That's to be directed to the constable.
Motion?
Yes?
Yep. Sounds good.
Second?
Set. All in favor? Aye. And we'll have a sign.
No.
No, okay. 4. Yep,
Any other
4-1-0,
town
yeah.
business, Mr. Chairman? That's where you're at.
I don't have any.
Mr.
other
Chair,
business?
I just have a couple things that I was hoping we could get on one of the upcoming agendas. The first is back in the spring, I think it was, Lieutenant Walsek and one of the members of the Council on Aging began working on a project called Project Lifesaver. And I know there was a lot of work involved, but I'd like to get an update on that, where we're at and what we need to complete that project, because it's a really important project to our seniors in the community. So if we could get an update for Project Lifesaver on one of the agendas coming up.
Now, what organization has that one? What is that?
That was Lieutenant Walsek and the Council on Aging. Some of the members of the Council on Aging board. I'm not quite sure exactly who or how many of them were working on it. I mean, I knew the one I talked to, but so maybe we could send a request to the Council on Aging board to, doesn't have to be next week, but I would just like to get an update and find out where they are, because this was an important project.
Yes, it sounds good. If we can get more information, it'll be helpful, so we can.
Yeah, well,
we can put
Lieutenant
it on the
Walsek
agenda.
would know who he was. If we can just, send an invitation down to Steve's Mr. Holmes is the liaison. Maybe we could. Anyways, if we can just work it out to get it on one of the upcoming agendas to get an update, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll get all done, and like I said, it'll probably be next week's going to be another full agenda. So
Yeah, no,
probably
there's
any
no
time after that.
Yeah, no rush on that. The other thing that I was hoping to do is honor Yvonne Stone, who's been the president of the Friends of the Wareham Elderly. I'm not sure she wants me to publicly say how many years, but with a proclamation from this board, if we could do that sometime in the next month, I'd appreciate that. Just two more quick things. Mr. Andrews isn't here tonight, but I was hoping that he next week in his report to us could update us. Back in May, there had been some discussion about the EMS and the fire district and some type of partnership, regionalization, reorganization, and there was a letter that came through like around May 17th, May 18th, where the fire district asked for a number of different pieces of information. And last week at the Capital Planning Committee meeting, Mr. Andrews announced that there was no plans to move the EMS over to the fire, but there may have been something lost in translation there. That information was never received by the Prudential Committee or the fire district or anybody. So I don't know if it was never sent. I'd just like to find out like how we went from having a conversation to the end of the conversation, and it doesn't seem like we had a conversation. So maybe he could kind of give us a little overview in a few paragraphs of how that happened. Because I've gotten a couple calls about that from.
Okay, why don't you send him an email so you can ask
Okay.
a specific question? Thank you.
Yep. And my final issue is the CETA in the first phase of the Streetscape project has applied to the Conservation Commission, which they obviously have to do because of the proximity to the river. But it might be a good idea if we could release maybe even just a one paragraph something to the media, maybe a notice to the business owners and the tenants on Main Street, just so they know what to expect, because obviously any disruption in Main Street can be really difficult, and just kind of give them a heads up of, what the dates are going to be, what they can expect, and if there's anything that they need to do. We could get that.
Okay. Yes, and I think that they get that all worked out, because they know when the contracts are out, and they'll be notifying everybody.
Right, but will we notify the owners of the buildings, not the tenants?
Yes.
So not all the owners are going to notify their tenant. I did get a call from a concerned tenant that they had heard the rumor, but they weren't really sure. So I just want to make sure that
rumors travel fast.
I know,
and
but I just
far,
want to make sure everybody
and
knows.
months
So
in advance. So
that's what I want, everybody to prepare. Technically, the owners are responsible for their tenants, but we can't control what they do. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder? Mr. Begley? Yes.
Some clarification about the, some discussion that there was for the Town of Wareham's EMS to go with the Wareham Fire District Fire Department. And my question is this: did this board direct Mr. Andrews to look into that kind of partnership, or is I'm not sure where that came from?
Well, I'm in the same boat that you are in, because I haven't had anybody come to this board or have given anybody any authorization. So if you can clarify that a little more.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking for clarification.
Well,
So
yeah, I
if
don't
this,
have it.
I mean, unless if Mr. Andrews was going to, for example, reorganize and came to this board within the town, I understand that, and then he can come to the board. But to kind of make the approach that the EMS would leave the municipality of the town of Wareham and go into the district purview, I would think would definitely come after having a discussion with this board. So I'm not sure where that came from.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs.
may I respond? Through you to Mrs. Begley. This was a conversation that came up at a capital planning committee meeting, which I believe you were in attendance at. And I agree with you. Mr. Andrews should have brought this discussion to this board so we could have vetted the idea and approached the Prudential Committee and done all those things. But somehow between the discussions that occurred on that level and a letter that we received from the fire district that apparently that information may be lost in the mail, the facts didn't, I don't know what happened, but I'd like to know. We went from having that discussion with no discussion, Mr. Andrews didn't bring it to the board, and then to last Thursday where the discussion's over and it's not going to happen, and this board has never had an opportunity to discuss it. So what I'm asking is exactly what you're asking for. When did this come up? How was this determined? What conversations were had? What information was provided back and forth between the two parties? That's all. I want kind of like a little bulleted list of what happened so that I can understand it. Because we went from, 3 months ago having an idea on the table to be vetted.
Who had the idea?
I
on the
believe that
table? Capital planning.
It was discussed at the capital planning committee.
Correct, because, and just Mr. Cruz, just to clarify, the meeting that I attended that was discussed, I was quite surprised. And from what my understanding is, some capital planning people already had discussions with the Prudential Committee for the with the Water Fire District. That was without the knowledge of the Board of Selectmen, because I asked if the Board of Selectmen had been involved in all of this. So, in fact, there was a member of the Capital Planning Board that told me that they felt that they were overstepping their bounds. So yes, I would love to have that conversation. I think that it's an important one, because the other thing that I brought up that was of great concern to me was that the fact that the Onset Fire District was being left out of any kind of discussions with any sort of public-private safety complex. So again, I think that it would be wonderful to have the conversation with capital planning and the town administrator present, and we can all have the discussion so that the whole town knows what's being discussed.
I think you're absolutely correct, because I think there's a lot of people going out there taking it on their own to discuss policies of the town. And I think one of our selectmen had brought it up before about committees coming before us and giving a report, because we are having committee members going out there, and I don't know if you want to call brokering deals or getting information without us letting us know as the selectmen, because the committees are out there, but they do report back to us, and they're supposed to get our okay before they proceed. I mean, they can discuss things, but they need to have our blessing before they run rapid. Mr. Holmes, any other business?
Another one. I never heard that. I don't know what.
No.
I don't know if news goes over the bridge into Onset.
No, the reason why I'm that, because it's even been mentioning that I was involved in negotiations by certain people, and that's a no-no.
Mr. Chairman, I only have one item. I believe I sent you an email, and Mr. Andrews, to get on the agenda before town meeting a meeting with Powers and Sullivan. I see Derek's here tonight. I don't want to put him on the spot. One of the real concerns here is this letter that went to the state on August 31st, stating that the town of Wareham's audit for fiscal year 10 is not complete by Powers and Sullivan, and we're actually requesting additional time to get that completed by December 31st of 2011. So if we can get this on the agenda, get Mr. Powers and Sullivan in here. We've paid them over $100,000 to get this audit done. And now, apparently, they're saying that it may not be done until December 31st. We have town meeting coming up in October, where we're voting on money articles. We don't even have our fiscal year 2010 audit done. And so I know the Finance Committee has shared some of those concerns with the board. But when I got this letter last week tucked away in that secondary packet, I was quite surprised to see that, because I thought that this audit stuff was done. The second half of that story is that, you know, we have our research this year, and if we don't have these audits done, we're gonna have a real issue setting that tax rate. And if we have to go to the state Department of Revenue to do that, one of their concerns is that because of our management letter and the stuff that happened back in May, or March, or May, I guess it was, that if we don't have these things in order, they're not going to give us that opportunity to do that. So I'd like to know where we're at with our audit of fiscal year 10, and then ask the questions about 11. God forbid I dare ask. But we really need to get this in order before town meeting, because, again, we have a ton of money articles up front with the unions, the capital, and everything else, and we don't know what our free cash numbers are.
Okay, well, we'll have it on, if not next week, we'll have it the week after for sure.
And did you want to also, with the board, I hate to see Mr. I don't know if he charges to come to these meetings, but we did get this letter from the Finance Committee, Mr. Heath. Did you want to try to set something up?
I think
with
we're
the
working,
Finance
is that the one? Is
The
that the one where he's
Finance
going
Committee,
to
Mr.
work
Heath?
with Sullivan? That the one he's going to work? Is he going to have a meeting with Mr. Sullivan?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking maybe we could have one meeting instead of two. I think we did that last year, right? Yeah.
I think we did it one time at the town hall.
Could we attend is there any way that we can post it as a meeting with the Finance Committee?
That's what we did here last time.
Right, so if we posted and it had it all in one fell swoop, that would be...
That's what I'm
good thing.
thinking, yeah. So we could do it all, instead of having the guy come twice, give 2 cents. Then the Board of Selectmen, and the Finance Committee, and the Town Administrator, Mr. Derek, Powers and Sullivan, we're all in the room together, we all hear the same thing.
Any other thing, Mr. Holmes?
No, that's, to me right now, that's the biggest thing.
That's done? Sewer business?
Paid the bill.
I'm looking out in the audience. No.
Motion to adjourn?
Prior to that, with liaison, because this is quite pressing, for a liaison report, I don't know if this board is aware that unfortunately another full-time member of the Board of Health has resigned. So right now, we do not have a quorum on the Board of Health. I know that the letter of resignation was sent to the members of this board. So, Mr. Cruz, I believe that we do have to make appointments to that board. It absolutely needs to be on the agenda of the next meeting, because right now our Board of Health is does not have a quorum.
I think we set
So,
it for next week.
yes, and I spoke with Mrs. Irish at length today, and she may very well attend as well.
Mr. Holmes, we'll put that on?
Yeah, I think it's already on for next week.
Okay,
Next week is
thank
the
you.
third Tuesday. What's the date? 13th is the third Tuesday? 6, 13, 20, right? Next Tuesday. Yeah.
So done.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Well,
Motion to adjourn?
all right.
Now you have it? We have it
Yeah,
here.
now it's 5 minutes to 10. No, I just wanted to put another plug out for boards and committees. under liaison reports, you know, we still have
You
a
have 5
number of
minutes?
openings in the library. Yeah, I'm trying to
Microphone.
get people to apply, and that's it, I guess.
Okay, motion made. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.